Hi, Shorty. Fingers crossed, StreamYard's being a little bitch tonight, apparently. Very frustrating when we're professionals here. I'm fucking professional.
She's a fucking professional. No, goddamn it.
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
God, yes.
Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, faith breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Trial watching, trials and tribulations. It's Camp Shorty calling all nations. What are you drinking? Shall we skip this part? Left or right-handed? Shit, she slid it to the start. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddammit. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, faith breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Psychology corner. Let's learn about stuff. New Miss Shorty music. Calling their bluff. Best chat, best community. We've got the best minds. A safe, supportive sanctuary full of fun and love. Rock out with your cats out. Curse all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say God. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddammit. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, faith breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Hey, Shorties, what's doing, y'all? Get in here, Shorties. Let's fucking go. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty.
Hi! I forgot to put myself on the stage. Hi, Shorties. It's like, hi, good to see you. Hi, Shorties. It's like, hi, good to see you. New hair. Who dis? Didn't touch the fringe. Definitely touched the ends. I was like, I could have this much. It's so much better. I love it. Thanks. Thanks. Buster loves it too. I'm like a mature adult now. It looked so shit before, and now it looks cute and semi-healthy and pig's ears. Wait, what? Is that a big boy one? This one for you. And this one for you. Thanks. Thanks. Natalie. Nat says it looks cute. Oh, righto. Fuck, I'll put my glasses on. Looks cute and edgy. Sleek and edgy. Suits you. Thanks. Yes. So my natural hair color, you can see, like that's my mousy going slightly grey, and then the ends are still black, even in my fringe. Bangs. The ends are still black, and I hate them. But obviously, I'm not going to cut it all off. I'm like a mature adult. Hey, look, I've got my Stay Weird top on. Miss Shorty merch. Cool, huh? And with the glasses, it's amazing. Simi says rock star hair. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Shorties. And I've got tonight, weird. Wow. The Pac-Man earrings. I was like, yeah. That's what she said. That's what she said. And with the glasses, it's amazing. Yeah, not squinting. Who else is here? Hi, Steph, wife. Hi, Miss What the Fuck. Hi, Nat. I saw Tony was here. Did I? I didn't have my glasses on. Maybe there. BRB. I'm unprepared. Same, Tony. Same. What else? So midweek camp shorty. What? And we're starting later because I love it. And look, I was actually ready five minutes before. What? Who? Me? Yes. Yesterday I walked to the Aldi. Did a smaller grocery shop because I'm without a vehicle now. So that, hey, replay crew, hi. If you'd like to watch the live chat replay on your handheld device, your non-serial killer Android, your iPhone, your tablet, it's easy peasy. All you need to do is go to those two little dots at the top right of the comment tab and swipe left this way. And it'll give you the option to watch the live chat replay as well as hyping the video. And thank you to those of you who hyped last week or over the weekend. There's been some hypes. And drop a comment, please and thank you. Okay, thanks, bye. Laura, hi. How are you on a Wednesday? Kate, thank you so much. It's much healthier looking. And maybe without having to slick it back, this is just my natural dumb wave. Without having to slick it back, maybe it won't be so damaged. Joe Schmo says, hi, Joe, by the way. I have both an Android and an iPhone. Wow. How do I know they are both non-serial killer devices? I mean, I've been slammed many times before for inferring, in fact, outright stating that psychopaths and serial killers have Androids, only to discover that my best friends also have Androids. So I think you get a pass. Basically, don't kill people, multiple people, more than two with a space of time between. So no spree kills and no serial kills. Should be right. Simi says this. Wait. Good Lord, I'm not prepared.
Well.
Crystal. That. I'm well. So I have a feeling, and I'm not sure if she's Steph says just don't get caught, right? don't kill people, don't ride in wet concrete, and everybody should be fine, right? No crimes. We don't commit crimes, we try and solve them, avert them. So midweek camp shorty. I was like, I don't know what we should do here. I promised a psychology corner. I've been delving into a lot of, frankly, global politics. And so I don't know if that's really our jam. I can't really speak to it knowledgeably enough to be any sort of voice of reason. I'm still learning. However, I'm pretty sure that Britt Ketchell, who may be here eventually or not, hybrid on the replay, I have a feeling Britt Ketchell might have shared this particular Orion Kelly, and the description box is severely lacking at the moment. We're just lucky we're here. I will, after the fact, add in the link of the one definite, maybe two. I haven't watched the second video, but I'll drop some links and stuff. But Orion Kelly recently did, that autism guy, recently did an interview with I think she's Canadian, clinical psychologist called Beth, and we'll hear her name in a minute. Anyway, Beth, and they talk about autism and work, and are we neurodivergents being set up to fail? And given excuse me, clearing my throat, haven't even had cheese, given that for me personally, I am at a crossroads, I haven't yet resigned. I usually make those kind of giganto decisions like fuck it and jump off the cliff and close my eyes and see where I go. I haven't done it yet, but I think I'm going to take another week off work to still make my decision. It does feel that way, Kate, right? So for me, pushing, and I love my job. Do not get me wrong. I love being a road traffic controller, CEG. It was about a year ago, the selfie I've got on the thumbnail. I love my job. I'm very good at my job. It makes me feel alive. I love making a difference, even if it's just to a few hundred or thousand drivers and residents or business owners in my day. I love making people smile. I love waving like a 5-year-old and smiling at people, being kind and helpful, customer service. I'm very good at it. I also love live streaming with you guys. I love hanging out with you all, and you guys make me feel alive on a different level and satisfied, and like I'm doing something, providing to the community, the broader community, and our beautiful Shorty community. I love both. So you might have noticed, I've been grinding pretty hard. I think I've literally, up until a few weeks ago, did I have a week? I had last Friday off, my Saturday. Just up until then, I think I'd taken I took one stream off when I had a migraine. That was back in March. And I think I took one other. I think I've had 3, let's call it 4, so I'm not being hyperbolic. In days off completely. I've worked every single day of my life for the last almost 18 months, again, hyperbolic, 15, 16 months, because I love every minute of it. Maybe, just maybe, I've been hyper productive as a trauma coping mechanism. Yes, busy work is a form of avoiding stuff. So all that's come to a bit of a grinding halt now, where I've found it kind of hard to muster. Like, I'm burnt out, autistic burnout. So the getting up at 3 every morning of my life, I have to it's killed me. No, it hasn't killed me, but it's burnt me out. Burnout as a neurodivergent person, whether you are formally diagnosed or self-identifying and self-diagnosed, both are equally valid. Let's just put that to bed. There are many reasons why people don't, particularly late diagnosed, late self-identifying women, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60-year-old women, don't pursue formal diagnosis, not least of all the prohibitive cost, both financial cost and the spoons, the bandwidth cost, when we're already trying to be thriving or surviving in a world designed mostly for neurotypicals. Add to that the second prong to that, which is often mental health, like trauma from being disbelieved and gaslit and misdiagnosed by mental health and general practitioners for the last 50 years. So for me, despite my love of everything that I do, and that my autistic need for routine suited me very well. I'm not a 3 a.m. get up person. No, thank you. But I've adapted, and I'm proud of myself for someone who structured their entire life for at least a decade to make sure that I didn't ever have to even set an alarm. It's very hard for me to get up every morning to an alarm. It's who wants that? So my body clock is shifted now such that I wake up probably 5 out of 7 days a week before my alarm, so I don't have to have that daily trauma, rushing trauma, the trauma of the rush. I think I articulated to some of you. Absolutely, Joe. I get a lot of trash talk on Twitter from my friends. Hi, not friends, the monkeys, trash talking me and saying that I am a fraud and that I am not autistic because I have not got a formal diagnosis. And you know what I say to that? Suck my dick. Probably a third of you are also neurodivergent. And how dare you? Do some research, inform yourself, do some reading on the vast sea of particularly middle-aged women, late diagnosed women, coming to terms with the fact that they have slipped through the cracks for decades. So self-diagnosis and self-identification, I guess, is probably a less controversial term. Suck my dick, controversial, schmo, Joe Schmo. If you know, we know ourselves, and after decades, we know ourselves. So all that to say, there's only so long, and if I was just, and you know, I did have children at home. I was a single parent. I've had a few periods of burnout in my lifetime, probably autistic burnout. I didn't know it at the time, and here I am again. So, but not least of all is that grind of having to adhere to neurotypical expectations in terms of rostering, scheduling, and you know, time, literally time. It's exhausting. Kate, yes, I think autistic also is the term autistic has been gaslit and stigmatized for the longest time. There's so much societal negativity around that phrase. I'm the opposite. It took me about 18 months or so between realizing I was 1 quadrillion % autistic to adding ADHD to that. And now I'm like, oh, fuck, man. You're so AU ADHD all the way. Masking is a huge thing. And masking is one of the big drains on many neurodivergent people, whether they know they're neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD, both, whether they have been formally or not diagnosed, is trying to put on that face of adhering to those schedules, knowing that when you talk to your workmates and colleagues, you're like, they think I'm weird. Yes, I am weird and I love it. But people treat people, it is so draining, Tony. It is so draining. Simi says, I'm never going to spill my feelings out to someone, though I thought doesn't give a fuck. So no way they could probably diagnose me. Yeah, I think there's different testing. I'm not formally diagnosed. Chad, if you've been formally diagnosed, I think Ms. What the Fuck can give you some give everybody a bit. Ms. What the Fuck, you've been formally diagnosed, right? But I think it's more than just like a psychotherapy question. It's more than just a therapy environment. I believe that there's all sorts of checklists. It's quite a process. So yes, I have. So that Cheryl, that's interesting, says, hi, I got to strip the color out of my daughter's hair. God, you're a good mum. You're such a beautiful, involved mother. She's in junior. I don't know what that means this year, and they frown upon unnatural colors. Well, my hair is so flimsy that I'm just letting the black box dye grow out, but I feel you. I'd love that you're listening. Yes. Love the name Is What the Fuck. I call him Is What the Fuck because I quite often say what the fuck, like what the fuck. And so to differentiate between me cussing out, exclaiming what the fuck, and our girl Ms. What the Fuck. That's why I call her Ms. What the Fuck. and then Ms. What the Fuck's family are also Mr. What the Fuck and Mini What the Fucks. So Lots of tests on paper. Here we go. Lots of tests on paper, computer and in person, then some talk. Yes, 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 yes. It's very tricky, I think, for many middle-aged people, particularly women, but not exclusively, to drop the mask that we've been by necessity wearing for our entire life, to feel to to better feel like we belong or we fit in. Uh, so so many late diagnosed women only realize, have that revelation, because their children are getting diagnosed. Yep. They're screened and then diagnosed. Screened, is that the right word? Now I'm pulling up my phone because my brain is forgotten. But before I go any further and continue to forget, because Dory, I think you might remember. Don't play. You might remember we did was it Elisa Bellier? She spoke to, was it Lisa Bellier? She spoke to a British woman called Gina Rippon, again, a clinical psychologist, and who talked about, Gina spoke about her imminent, her soon to be released book called The Lost Girls of Autism. And it's on Audible. I purchased it, pre-purchased it before it was released, and have since listened to it. I must listen to it again. It's so, guys, I'm trying to be official and professional. It's so validating. It's so good. It's kind of sad. Like, there's some sadness. Gina's not sad, but she's dedicated her life to the last couple of decades to look into why the testing systems were actually designed and continue to perpetuate misdiagnosis or being missed completely of young women. Yeah, Simi, he startled me too. So if you have Audible, I would highly recommend getting a hold of The Lost Girls of Autism by Gina Rippon. The cover might be different in the States. I think it's 9 hours. Yes, it's 9 hours. It's got the foreword. Is that what it's called? It's called How Science Failed Autistic Women and the New Research That's Changing the Story. It is very good. I cried a few times, mourning for all those decades where there was never any hope of me even being recognized as being autistic, because the science just didn't know. And I come from a family with, my mother's an early childhood educator, and my father's both a practitioner. He was a chest physician and an academic, all the way up to top of, like, he was at Harvard. He had the chair of medical school at Harvard. They didn't even know. They didn't care. But exactly, Mike. Hi, Mike says, no one was diagnosed this 50 years ago. I thought everyone was this way and was always stunned when they didn't. Now parents admitting how different I was. You know, the other thing, hi, Mike, by the way, the other thing with that is that, given that, and let's not, who cares about causation? I just think it's just a different, it is just a different neurotype, right? But given that mostly families, like, if you're autistic or neurodivergent or ADHD or neurodivergent, then you got it from your family, and they got it from their, that's how it works. It's passed down through generations. So if your family was a little bit odd, I'm adopted, so they just thought I was a fucking weirdo, an alien. I felt that way too. I've always felt that way, always. But it makes sense that maybe it wasn't picked up by parents before all of this diagnosing these days. A much greater awareness and understanding of what neurodivergence looks like in boys and girls, men and women now, that's the way science goes, right? So it makes sense that maybe your family didn't pick up that you're a little bit odd because they're a little bit odd. And I say odd with the look at, like, I'm not, think of anybody in school or whether you can spot us a mile off. Anybody in school who was a little bit odd, who was drawn to odd, that sounds like negative, I'm not, who wasn't part of that Chud and whatever, the Tracy kind of mainstream group, the people on the periphery, the people with quirky interests, quirky fashion taste, quirky music taste, the drama kids, the music drama club kids, they're your autistic folk. You could so that a wonderful alien. Yes, that was one of the grieving moments I had when I first realized I was autistic, was like, oh, does that mean I'm just like everybody else now? I've lost my uniqueness? No. I just have a bunch of other people who are just as uniquely weird as I am in their own special way. Like we're all ice cream, right? We're just cool different flavors and combinations of flavors of ice cream. Tasty and colorful and amazing and worthwhile. So, hi, Mrs. Woosie. Ms. Woosie, by the way. Hi. Yeah, I think, there's a fair few of us who are adopted in this community, but thank you for sharing. Wait, scrolling back. Ms. Woosie says, I'm a weirdo adopted alien too. I get it. Like, my parents are both, my adoptive parents are the most narcissistic leaning cold frog folks you'll ever meet. Probably not, but to me they were, and I just am the opposite of that. So Joe Smo says, what's crazy about coming to the self-realization of my neurodivergence is seeing it in my family members, large family, and trying to have a discussion about it. Major denial, major. And I don't think that's uncommon. And I think that a lot of the stigma, the societal disdain, and the propaganda pushed, I'm not going to get political, but in your country in particular, just recent, people think that it's a bad thing. I have had autistic people say to me, when we both know we're autistic, and young men more, when we've been talking about someone else, and I've said, why would I say it as an insult? I've said, I think that person's autistic. I don't think they know it, and they go, yeah, maybe, but there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm like, no, there's not. This is not a slur. This is just an identification, right? Laura says, I was in the nerd group. I adore being a weird sunshine rainbow unicorn, lol. Same. So I always kind of presented like I didn't really even fit in the nerd group or the popular group. But I've always, even though I looked, and I know I'm covered in tattoos these days, but I wasn't always, obviously. And I used to wear, in high school and university, I kind of, my fashion was always a little different, but I was always drawn to the odd bods, the people who you wouldn't necessarily think based on the mask I presented that I would hang out with, but I'm just drawn to real good people. And in hindsight, I was just drawn to the bloody neurodivergent autistic weirdos. Good stuff, like good stuff. So it's been used in a negative light for so long, says Tony, that it has been culturally ingrained. Absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of what Joe was saying, there's a lot of resistance. Plus also, Joe, you've got to factor in your LDS background too. I can imagine that, I don't know what the LDS opinion is of something like neurodivergence, but I can't imagine it's welcomed. But please feel free to correct me. I love learning. I'm all about learning. So anyway, thanks for coming to my 30-minute introduction. Wow. Shall we do a bit of... So Orion Kelly, we've watched some of his stuff. He's an Australian guy. He's got a very big platform. I think it's 210 subscribers. He's called Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. He has a lot of. He's a late diagnosed guy. He's very passionate, and there's a lot of not negativity, but I think he's got a little bit of anger still. about, and fairly rightly so, but that's what makes his passion kind of I guess attractive. That's why his channel is so big. So for an Australian autistic guy to have 210 subscribers, I love that. So let's pull it up, and we'll see how we go. But I'd love you all to share your experiences in the chat as we go along, as to where in your life you've maybe felt like, because of, not necessarily because you were persecuted for your autism. I don't think that happens that often. I hope not, particularly if you're not late diagnosed or not formally diagnosed, or don't even think know whether you're necessarily autistic or neurodivergent, but where maybe the fact that the workplace for my 50 years, oh look, I'm a circle, has always been like me maintaining my sparkly, bright, delightness takes such a toll on me that, and I've got such high standards for myself. I strive to excel, and I put so much emotional, mental, and physical energy into. You like the circle? Okay, we'll stay with the circle. So much physical energy, all the energies, all the spoons go into maintaining, which is me. It's just that there comes a, and I'm also doing that with you guys too, right? I don't know, like maybe I make this look easy. I don't know about that. Why isn't that screen? Oh, it's because I haven't full screened it yet. But it takes its toll. So let's watch this.
So basically, after spending millions of dollars, our own government have worked out that autistic people not only are disproportionately underemployed, but basically can't keep a job. So I guess the question is, are we all stuffed, Dr. Beth?
A really great question, Orion. Sadly, 1 in 5 autistic Australians has reported that they've lost a job specifically because they're autistic.
Not 210.
And in Canada and the UK, over 2/3 of autistic people are unemployed. But I don't think it's a completely hopeless situation. There's a lot of new research happening in this space. So let's talk about some potential solutions.
Let me check the speed.
Dr. Beth,
no.
where we bring your real life questions to an absolute expert in the field of neurodiversity, Dr. Beth Radalski. She is a neurodivergent coach, educator, consultant, and she's autistic. Dr. Beth, welcome back.
I'm so happy to be here.
Hey, I just want to get straight to this because I don't think there's a more important topic right now, frankly, for, late diagnosed and even diagnosed at birth, diagnosed as a child, diagnosed as a teen. For autistic adults, employment is the thing, okay? So before we get to the questions, we've got some great questions from our community. Let's just lean into the fact, you're Dr. Beth for a reason. This is your thing. This is your qualifications and your expertise. So we're going to go back to that thesis of yours. And I want you to just give us the whistle-stop tour. What do we need to know? What are some of the overarching themes we need to know for our discussion on employment today? Things we maybe never thought of before.
Yeah, great question, Orion. So my thesis made some really interesting findings in terms of autistic employment. And I think as an autistic person myself, I was able to ask some questions that maybe hadn't been asked previously in research. So one of the
This what the fuck moved me.
Is that
she's like, girl, get out of the middle.
Structure in society, in the same way that we have a patron asked previous. My thesis made some really interesting findings in terms of autistic employment. And I think as an autistic person myself, I was able to ask some questions that maybe hadn't been asked previously in research. So one of the findings we made is that there's actually a neuroarchal social structure in society, in the same way that we have a...
I love this. This was a new concept to me, a neurolarchal, I guess, like patriarchal. Keep listening.
Patriarchy that can exclude women from the workplace, for example, or we have a colonial structure that can include people of color from the workplace. We also have a neuroarchal social structure that's based on a hierarchy of minds. And that social structure privileges neurotypical people, behaviors, cultures, and ways of being. Now, there are 6 structures in this neuroarchy, and 2 of them are directly related to workplaces and professional environments. So as you can see, I've got my t-shirt on to smash the neuroarchy because I think it's time to bring it down and end neurotypical privilege and make sure that autistic people and neurominority groups more broadly can have better employment inclusion outcomes. So a couple of the key concepts that we're going to talk about today are neuroism, which is the belief that the neurotypical neurotype is superior. So it's neurotypical supremacy, if you will. And we're also going to talk about neurophobia, and that is a fear of neurodivergent people. Now, neurophobia can manifest in a couple ways, but the most relevant one in the workplace setting is a fear of incompetence, a fear that you're not going to do it right, a fear that your presence in the workplace is in some way going to create negative consequences for your neurotypical colleagues. This can either look like you messing up, you not doing a project right, you not hitting deadlines, you not having the same skills or qualifications or expertise, even if they're the same as your peers. You might be seen as less capable in those areas, and you might be excluded from certain opportunities on that basis. And it can also manifest with the view that, we talk about Sanism a little bit too. So neuroism and Sanism can overlap. Sanism being the belief that people who are not neurotypical are dangerous. And so sometimes these beliefs can manifest in the workplace as well.
You've never told me this before, this Sanism thing. Why have I never heard of this before? This is I'm fascinated now. Sorry. So you're saying there's a thing based around we're feared, we're dangerous. Is that what you, sorry, can you just back up, please? You've never told me this before. I'm very upset with you, by the way. I'm very upset with you. Just quickly go through this, please, because you know what? This is the same for my kid in school, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sanism emerged from, what was originally disability studies, which emerged kind of in the 1980s. And then we move into, mad pride literature and movement. And some of the academic literature that came out of these spheres talks about Sanism and the belief that people who are not neurocognitively typical can be dangerous. And in social sciences, we talk about this.
Hello, Brian Koberger, and that bullshit trope. I mean, I'm positive he is neurodivergent, but his danger was not because of that.
View that, the European subject is this rational, intellectual. These are a lot of the values that underlie patriarchy and coloniality as well, by the way. The idea that there's a particular type of brain that works and operates in the right way, and all others are inferior.
Britt, I'm pretty sure. Sorry, lady. She looks beautiful, even though it's a semi-dirty pause. Beth, not lady. I'm pretty sure this is the video you recommended to us in the Neurodivergence drawer in Discord. Am I correct? Lady Beth. Yes. Thank you, Ms. What the fuck. Yeah, they were just trying to cut him a good deal and get him some pity, but even that just perpetuates. We don't need to be pitied. He is a psychopathic neurodivergent, Brian Koberg. But Britt, I'm pretty sure this is the video that you suggested anyway. It was the one when I went into the Orion's channel to find something that resonated with me. And this one, Autism Work - why we're set up to fail, and parentheses, how to change it, resonated with me. So here we are watching. We've only just started the video about 8 minutes ago, Britt.
So to really get into this, you've really triggered the info dump. I hope you're strapped.
That's okay. Good.
We're gonna go.
Good.
So, we often talk about neurotypicality as strictly about disability. You're either abled or you're disabled. You're either neurotypical or you're neurodivergent. And yes, there's some truth to that, but it's also deeply intersectional. And what we don't often talk about are the overlaps between neurocognitive privilege and oppression, and not just ableism, but also sexism and racism and classism. And so often when we look back at how the, typical brain was thought to exist throughout different points in history, it's not just described as abled versus abled. For example, under patriarchy, women were thought to be hysterical, irrational, too emotional, not capable of controlling their actions. They were infantile. They were immature compared to the male brain that was more sophisticated and rational. You have the same thing in coloniality, where oftentimes Black, Indigenous, and people of color and groups pertaining to those identities were stereotyped as angry and irrational and uncivilized and less in control. And so this all comes back to the idea that there's some sort of delay, right? It's this idea that you're less mature, you're not neurocognitively developed at the same level as the cis, white, heterosexual, European, neurotypical male. And so oftentimes these beliefs can manifest in fear that if you're not logical and rational, you're not in control of your faculties. And that can mean that you are acting, quote unquote, insane. You are more likely to be volatile. You're more likely to potentially to be physically dangerous. So we often see this in police interactions with autistic people, for example. It's this belief, Sanism really boils down to the belief that there is one healthy way for a mind to work, and people whose minds do not work in this way in some way pose a threat to the status quo held by that group that falls into that dominant norm.
Okay, so everything I've learned in criminal law at uni will tell me that if that is the case, then I would never go to jail. I would be put in a psychiatric unit and never be released under the King's care, being autistic.
Well, the criminal side of it's really interesting because Sanism and Neuroism also manifest in that courtroom setting. You mentioned crime as a topic, and I think if we look at, Sanism, a perfect example of Sanism and Neuroism combining is the way that we conceptualize innocence and honesty. If you think about so suppose you're on a jury, right? And you're a judge and you're watching someone on the witness stand. If they're able to look you in the eye and they're able to sit still and they're able to tell a logical and sequential story from start to finish without any backing up or taking little side quests, you're much more likely to read them as being honest. If they're not able to look you in the eye, if they're fidgeting a little bit, you might interpret that as nervousness. We think that if you can look someone in the eye, you're being honest. If you're not able to look them in the eye, perhaps you're being deceitful. So neurotypical.
Pause. I've spoken about this before. If you and I chat, you and I were sitting one-on-one, I'm okay with that, and we were talking. When you're talking to me, I can absolutely not. I don't think I've trained myself. Maybe it's a masking thing. I can absolutely look you in the eye the entire time you're talking. No discomfort. It comes naturally to me. It's just colors. Hi, good to see you. But then when I'm talking, and I've said this before in our other neurodivergent streams, and you might have noticed when I'm pontificating here and there, like I look all around. I've noticed it myself. So when I'm talking about things, it's too much for me to look you guys in the eye here on the camera. And if we're one-on-one, for me to look the other person in the eye while I'm talking, not because I'm being a sus psychopath, but because there is so much going on in my brain all the time. High ADHD, and my ideas are big, and I'm so highly aware of the fact that there's so much in there that I want to deliver in an articulate, sensical, like commonsensical and succinct way. Lol, succinct. The analogy I use is a bit like if there's me and you sitting in a car and it's a manual car, so a gear stick, and we're talking and the music's going and stuff, something's got to give. So for me in conversation while I'm talking, there's so much going on that I'd be looking everywhere else. But if I was Jennifer McCabe, if I was on a jury or in an interview, I would be doing all those things too. And I think people think I'm shifty, right? Princey, hi, good to see you. Almost all the mods here tonight. I love that. Thanks everyone for being here. But yeah, eye contact is a huge thing that people judge on. And frankly, someone who's looking at me, like eyeballing me while they're talking, that doesn't seem real natural to me. Ooh.
Traits are the default standard for honesty, for morality, and this can lead to that sanist and ableist and neuroist view that neurodivergent people are deceitful and dangerous and not otherwise right in a neurocognitive capacity.
And that would be no different in a job interview setting.
Absolutely. Or in the workplace in general. making decisions about teams. A lot of times you see
Sorry,
autistic
I just fucked an old job interview situation. And then also, so then because I feel, I know already that I'm going to be looking all over the place, and I'm going to probably talk faster because I tend to talk a lot faster when I'm feeling uh, uh, impassioned or under the pump. I attribute it to the fact that I have so many words to say, and throughout my lifetime, I'm very used to people switching off and not listening to me, to my full, complete idea. So talk very fast to try and get everything out I can as quickly as possible before they either mentally switch off or physically walk away. And I'll quite often, if I'm in a conversation with someone, a long conversation with something, I'm primed to already, when I have an important talking point, something that I really need them to say, I'll say, I can't think of a name that one of you won't think I'll say that person's name to bring them back to listening to me, just so that it actually lands, because probably they're not listening, which is so sad. But the judgment of this fast talking, the eye contact, and probably my I'm not, don't judge me.
will end up in HR. I often work as a consultant. I've been brought in to support HR in navigating disputes between neurodivergent employees and their organizations. And what you often see is this really subtle underlying belief that the neurodivergent person is manipulating, they're being dishonest. That often tends to be the narrative. And in reality, the neurodivergent person is being very literal and forthcoming, and they're trying to engage. But because they're not engaging performatively with the behaviors we associate with honesty, they're not being read as truthful and honest. And their neurotypical colleagues are often given the benefit of the doubt on that basis.
Sorry, Lady Beth. Hi, Lady Ray. Good to see you. Case in point, right now, because there's so many words, so many thoughts going in my head all the time. You might notice that I'll quite often pause. And to me, words, the nuances of particular words are so important, particularly in an important conversation, that I'll pause and buffering, either because my brain's trying to pull in that word that I'm looking for, or find the specifically right word, because to me, words matter so much. Individual words matter so much. And so there'll be times when I'll when I'm really under the pressure of the situation, whether that's positive pressure or negative pressure, is I'll start to stutter. And Princey loves my hair. Thanks, Princey. I gave it the chop yesterday. I've been getting it more healthy. Ms. Woozy, I was doing it again now. Oh my god. Ms. Woozy says I have a weird pause thing where sometimes I have to take a beat for my mouth to catch up with my brain, and people think I'm done talking, so they start talking and I lose the thought completely. On the flip side of that, but in the same vein, losing the thought completely, I'm a horrendous interrupter. And it's absolutely not because I think my thoughts are more important, or what I have to say is more important. But sometimes if I don't say it, it's gone. Like, whoop, gone. It's like a butterfly or dragonfly. Simi says, I rarely feel heard. I even wrote a damn song about it. Tony says, this makes me feel very seen. I don't think it's the one you shared either, Britt, but it's the one that resonated with me when I went to look for the one you did share on Orion's page. I'm like, oh, the work one is very relevant. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Got to get the thought out while it's there, right? Ms. What the fuck knows, because she sees me like, yeah, okay, I'll let her keep going. Ms. What the Fuck says Mr. What the Fuck is like that, but it's okay. He's the talker and I'm the listener. We match perfectly, lol. I just think that a lot of neurotypicals think, fuck, she's so rude. Why she's rude and annoying and she's dominating the conversation. No, but also you got to remember I live by myself. Y'all are the only ones I talk to.
Because they appear honest, regardless of whether they have the evidence to back up what they're saying.
Yeah. I hate ya. Put that on a t-shirt. Stupid ivory tower. I mean, obviously the employment and autism struggle is real. It's a massive topic. You know, I get so many emails and comments, you know, from the website and YouTube channel. And I really do. It's quite sad. People who are getting letters from employers or facing dismissal, you know, facing different things because they were given a job and then one way or another, the employer has decided that there's just things that they do that they don't like and they just find ways to get rid of them. And it's just, I mean, it's, yeah,
Sidebar, can we notice how Beth she's self-soothing by the rocking and the moving? I'll often do this, you might have noticed, when I'm talking on things that are kind of more impassioned. My vaping is a self-soothing. I'm a big swayer. And wait, one thing. I actually had a pause. Sorry to interrupt you guys. I'll come back to them in a second. I'll stop interrupting. Although that's what we're here for. Hopefully. I have had a particularly stressful few weeks, particularly stressful, a lot of shit going down. And I found myself last Friday, my Friday, your Thursday night, self-soothing in a way that I haven't done for a long time. I think I have a feeling that there was some of this on either side of my infamous 6-hour meltdown, which anyway, it happened. Apparently not. Anyway, it happened. But when I was highly stressed with my housing instability and the domestic abuse relationships, and a whole lot of, and when all of my trauma was a lot fresher from 2017, 2018, I used to, and I found myself doing it Friday, and it took me by surprise. I'll do it for you. I realized I was so on the brink of like losing my fucking mind with the stress that it was so distressing to me that I was walking around getting myself prepared to submit some pretty important paperwork that I'm not good with paperwork, but I was going, like that's my on the way to going nonverbal. So thankfully it only like I got the paperwork submitted and whatever will be. But self-soothing, like Princey says, I rock and sway and shift my weight from foot to foot. So in my job, when probably my former job work, my peasant work, when it's a highly overstimulating site with lots of cars driving past where I'm having to be very focused and very switched on with customer service, I'll find myself rocking and swaying just to give me some sort of grounding so that I don't let that external sensory overstimulation get to the point of overwhelm. I'm perpetually on the tip of overwhelm. But I'll go back to this. Also, wait, sidebar. I had a little freak out. Wait, before we get back to it, and I'll try to stop interrupting because fuck. I've been doing some tidying, and I always because I have to dismantle my whole studio every time. And my microphone goes away. And I picked up my microphone to reinstall it here this morning. And this light here, which has always been a bloody awful white color, and I hate it, was red. I was like, oh my God, not another microphone problem. God, I have to test it beforehand. I'm like, what could this be? And I was pressing this button here, pressing. And then I thought, maybe it's something on the bottom. And look, I could change it to any damn color I want. Oh, wait, that was moving. I've had this microphone for about 10 months. Mind blown. How about that? Oh my God, fancy, says Mr. Mother. I was like, because it was red. I'm like, red. Does that mean it's not going to work? Oh, I've got it on the rainbow. Absolutely. Yes. Okay, let's get back to these two. And I'll some continuity. Please, Lisa, for the love of God, stop talking.
Sad. People who are getting letters from employers or facing dismissal, facing different things because they were given a job and then one way or another, the employer has decided that there's just things that they do that they don't like and they just find ways to get rid of them. And it's just, it's overwhelming, but also I feel like, how can this continue to happen? There's really no good level of help out there for these types of people. And I guess the people that are making these letters and disciplining these people don't even understand what they're doing is wrong, potentially illegal. And it's just devastatingly sad. And I just think every day I just hear from more people that are, I feel devastated that their life is never going to be fulfilling because they can't do what they love to do, or they can't keep a job and they just take it on. And so let's start with the questions. The first question is from Kim Gars, and this is: why is there no help or support for autistic adults in the workplace? I've just had to resign from a job I love. Demands exceeded my capacity. So sad.
Yeah, so this is a really important question, and it is really sad what happens to autistic people in workplaces a lot of the time. So often what we see, we talked a little bit about the neuroarchy in the introduction, and I think this is a great place to unpack that a little bit more. So one of the 6 structures of neuroarchy that we found evidence of, and we found this evidence through reviewing hundreds of studies that have been done on autistic experiences in workplaces. We did what we call a discourse analysis. So we looked, how does the public talk about autism employment? How does the public talk about autistic people that may impact how they're perceived and treated in professional spaces? One of the key findings we found is that autistic people are often treated like burdens. So the idea that we're giving you a charitable opportunity by welcoming you onto our team. This is our good act for the day. And we want you to be grateful for being here. And because of that gratitude, we expect you to adapt to our culture. And if you are not a good cultural fit, so if you're not able to thrive within the team culture as it stands now, this is not the job for you. So oftentimes neurodivergent people in these participant studies report feeling like they're a burden, like they're an inconvenience, like they're seen as wanting special treatment. Autistic women report feeling like they're treated like they're divas or high maintenance because there's that gender intersectionality there of women having needs is just too much. So that plays into it in that people are hesitant to disclose and unmask and ask for support because it's perceived as special treatment, not as equity. So I think that's, one of the first major factors that's going on there. But the other thing
I was in trying to title this video, this live stream, I didn't want to copy, obviously, Orion's title of Autism Work, Why We're Set Up to Fail and How to Change It. And I was going to say, what did she just say? About the equity line where she said it's just accommodations for equity, whatever the verbiage was, I can't remember, but I couldn't quite get it to fit, but that was very poignant to me. I wish Amber was here, Law Nerd Amber. She has an amazing story to tell that was months, I think probably over 12 months, but she could correct me, months with an employer. She's still with the same employer, I believe, but in a different role, where they refused to make her very simple accommodations a thing in the office space. She wanted to have the curtains drawn because the light is a very overstimulant for her. I think a dimmer, and she just wanted to wear headphones, and they wouldn't. They just dug in. Eventually, she advocated very strongly for herself, and now she works from home, and she's thriving. She's happy again. It's a beautiful story. I do wish she was here, and shout out to Amber for persevering through some really heavy trauma at the hands of her employer's despicable treatment.
Found, which really overlaps, is that one of the main structures of neuroarchy is neurotypical relations in paid work. And what this looks like, it takes a few forms. It's the idea that there are certain biological parameters within an autistic person that would make them well or ill suited to certain forms of work. So segregated work is one key component here. So sometimes what you'll see is neurodivergent hiring programs that are heavily condensed in the tech space. And oftentimes, what the research found was that white, male, middle class, and above well-educated technologists tend to be favored in these programs quite a lot of the time. So, flashing back to what we said about the intersectionality of neurocognitive privilege, men have neurocognitive privilege under patriarchy. They're seen as more logical, more rational. White people have neurocognitive privilege under coloniality. They're seen as more logical and rational than people of color. So sometimes you're able to leverage different aspects or pieces of your neurocognitive privilege to navigate neurotypical relations in workplace settings more effectively than groups who have less forms of neurocognitive privilege or who experience more forms of neurocognitive oppression.
Firstly, I think it's really important to understand that you can't discount the importance of the statement that you made, which is, in effect, there is very much a situation most autistic people face where they're told, I don't think you're cut out for this job, or I don't think you're right for the team, or I don't think you're a good fit. And when I say that, I mean, I seriously hope people watching understand that. Don't discount that. That is one of the key and most important, turning points in an autistic person's life, because, well, hang on, you applied for the job, right? You interviewed for the job, you got the job. So I think I am cut out for the job, or you're very bad at picking people, or you're very bad at picking people. And I think I am a good fit because, again, you interviewed me through the whole process and thought I was a good fit. That's why you gave me the job. So maybe the issue here isn't just me. And I think, to me, this leads in.
Pause. Ms. What the Fuck and I had almost an identical conversation last week. And I still haven't decided, as I said, but the way I'm feeling about my job, it's that hasn't been said to me, and it's not true. But the way the allocation of where I'm placed and my offsider has the same effect. And Ms. What the Fuck spoke of Mr. What the Fuck in the past being absolutely gutted when he was told something along those very same lines. Not the right fit in a workplace, which is heartbreaking when we already, I don't know about you, I think I can probably speak for most of us here, that we've felt like we weren't quite the right fit in society, in our friend groups, in our schools, in our workplaces, in our family units, wherever we've been. So to have it be formally or like informally articulated or subliminally inferred by the treatment that you're getting in the workplace, it's absolutely crushing, right? And because, I'm going to do a sweeping generalization here because, in my opinion, neurotypicals don't necessarily take on things nearly as deeply. They don't feel things nearly as deeply as many neurodivergent folks. A throwaway comment like that, which wouldn't impact on them, they just brush it off and walk away. For someone like a neurodivergent who spend their entire life likely feeling like they don't belong, they're an alien, and there's something wrong with them, to have that put into words or practice by an employer, how do you reconcile that? It's an existential, visceral response, right? For me, it is.
Before we get to another question, this leads into a topic that you just tell me either way, from your point of view. Autistic people basically require levels of reasonable adjustment to thrive in their job.
You fit in here, Laura.
That isn't a privilege or an optional thing. That's something that is the difference between them being good at their job and them not.
Like-
And the reason why I want you to talk about that is because I hear this all the time, but well, it's expensive.
Pause. That's important. That's really. Mike says I've been let go from 2 jobs because I reminded my boss of their brother or ex-husband. My spectrum behavior. That's a bit like toxic positivity, right? Someone else's inability to process and work through their own lived experiences, traumas, triggers, means that they need to push away either yourself, like Mike says, or your very real feelings associated with lived experience, and so it's about the other person's comfort rather than having any empathy or willingness to have compassion for your own discomfort. Ugh, so selfish. I'm sorry, Mike. That's fucking awful.
They're not usually. It's, you know, it's hard. I don't have to do it. I don't want to do it. Or, well, this just makes it harder for me. But I guess the point I'm making is these shouldn't be optional. Like if you're going to, you know, and then why would I hire autistic people if I've got to give them this? See, this is a key barrier to maintaining employment.
I think one of the best ways I've heard this put is by my good friend Tia Squire. You should follow her on LinkedIn. She's absolutely amazing. She's like 20,000 followers and is just a superstar in the neurodiversity employment space. And Tia said that one of the best ways she'd heard it described as, you know, and I've got my little red flag here to wave. If an employment opportunity tells you you're not a good cultural fit, that's an enormous red flag, because as Tia says, it's not about a fit into the culture. It's a culture add. When you bring a new person into your team, you're adding to your team's culture, and your team culture should be growing around that person. And I think that
pause, really important point. I don't know, like if any of you who follow me on Twitter, and I sometimes go into it in the Discord, I like organizational culture, and as a bigger broader humanity thing, culture is something I've studied at a master's level, organizational culture, organizational structure and design, but culture is big to me. And when a culture is so toxic and closed, whether it's a YouTube community, a social media platform like Twitter, or a workplace, and people are so deeply entrenched and enmeshed in that toxic culture, or that narrowly defined culture, it's that xenophobia, the fear of the other. We like it how it is. We like it how it is here. We don't want to change. Trauma bonded to the culture.
Profoundly changes the way that we think about autism employment, because if we're looking for a cultural fit, again, we talk about the neuroarchy, we're looking for a neurotypical fit because the culture is neurotypical. Sarah Ahmed is an absolute star in this field, talking about how institutions shape themselves and their cultures within the image of the dominant group. So Ahmed says, and this is a quote, "Spaces are lived as being comfortable as they allow bodies to fit in. The surfaces of social space are already impressed upon by the shape of such bodies." So if you think about it, we'll use a metaphor of like a memory foam mattress, right? If you've got a memory foam mattress of your own and you're sleeping on that every night, it is going to be more accustomed to your body. It's going to adapt to your body. You're going to feel comfortable because the mattress is adapting to your shape. So if you're neurotypical in a workplace, the workplace is built around your mold. It's going to be more culturally comfortable for you. If you're autistic and you don't fit into that mold, it's going to be really hard to experience comfort. And comfort isn't just in the literal sense of like, I feel physically comfortable. Comfort in the sense of, can I exist in this space?
Pause. I'll go back so we get her whole thought. I just caps locked you with Buster is snoring. Sorry, guys. I know caps are okay around here, but it's unnecessarily caps locking. Although Tony's fuck yeah gifts absolutely required for. Thank you, Steph. Thank you so much. Susan P. Girl, you're in the drawer. She's like, don't put me in the drawer. I'm putting you in the drawer. Thank you. Hey, Shorties. Hey, new Shorty. Now we just need to get Susan to come on into one of our chats. Slowly. Now let me go back. I'll put you in the drawer. Oh, dirty pause. So if you're I like that.
Place is built around your mold. It's going to be more culturally comfortable for you. If you're autistic and you don't fit into that mold, it's going to be really hard to experience comfort. And comfort isn't just in the literal sense of like, I feel physically comfortable. Comfort in the sense of, can I exist in this space without experiencing profound systemic injustice? And what Ahmed has found is that, workplaces that are built around a dominant norm are not capable of providing that opportunity to groups who have been excluded from the culture. So we're not adding them into our culture and shaping our culture around them. We're saying, come and fit into what's here. And if you don't fit, maybe you're just not the right cultural fit for this workplace. We're totally overlooking the systemic inequality that's creating that mismatch that's not allowing that individual to fit into that workplace.
And distilling that down to a basic human emotion, basically the modern day mainstream workplaces are designed to make an autistic...
Steph, if you win, you can tell me to chuck it back in. How about that? It just looks more spectacular when your name's in there 10 times. You've never won, even though you're always in there, because it's not rigged. Wait, Ms. What the fuck? I will tell Tim you love him. Twine and two cons. Thanks, Ms. What the fuck? She's like, don't put me in the drawer. I'm putting you in the drawer. Love you. Thanks.
Person
allowing that individual to fit into that workplace.
And distilling that down to a basic human emotion, basically the modern day mainstream workplaces are designed to make an autistic person feel like a failure, to feel like they're not good enough, they're not good at their job. And that's not the truth. Like, you can be told, I don't think you have what it takes. You do have what it takes. You might not be the best. No one is the best. You have to work hard, yeah? But you might not be the best, but you aren't a failure, and you are up for the job. But the way the way the environment's set up makes it hard. But then again,
pause. Of course, tying it back to my lived experience. Otherwise, we're just sniping Orion Kelly's video. But going back to where I was speaking about how every job I've ever done, including sex work, I've put my the verbiage here, not intentional, put my head down and made myself strived to be the absolute best I can be in that job. Not better than everybody else, my best, always my best. I'm not competitive at all. Although I mean, ego, but it's for me striving to be my absolute best. I pride myself on that. Almost perfection to a fault thing. So I guess it's even more disheartening and devastating when, despite me being me, despite me being head and shoulders one of the best traffic controllers within it's kind of a small company. I think there's about 50. Like, I'm not in the favorites circle. I'm not in the upper echelon of the favorites. And despite my proven track record, my consistency, my never having taken a day off, the fact that I get people, residents, businesses, and just people passing by send emails praising me for my overall amazingness, my work ethic, my cheeriness, my customer service, my safety, my attention to detail. I would challenge my boss to show me. No, I won't actually challenge him because it's pointless. But I guarantee you, no, if any other traffic controller in my company has had one email, I'd be surprised. But I've had many, and still, despite that, and not even how long I've been there, 3 years, and they've just kind of shafted me and basically demoted me from running my own site, even though I do it to an exemplary standard every day. It's just crushing. So that I think a lot of neurodivergents would agree with me that because we're not good with small talk and fake shit, we often don't end up in the favorite circle, not least of all also because we already don't fit in from that neurology, because because we're different, and because and often we're judged for how passionately and how much effort and energy we put into our job, and that makes the neurotypicals who just sort of get along to get along, often, not always, they're sweeping generalizations, we kind of seen as a threat, which goes back to that idea that neurodivergents are a threat and they're dangerous. And I think that's all part of it. Like, I've never gone as far as I could, despite my excellence, and I'm not being conceited, it's just a fact. Despite my excellence and my level of care and commitment, I've never gone as far as I possibly could in any job or business or framework that I could have, because I'm not willing to do the brown nosing, sucking up small talk bullshit that many neurotypicals value as being part and parcel of fitting in, right? It's really hard. I mean, Tony says I found, wait, mouse, come back. Excuse me. I've always found that I was too efficient in whatever role I was in, and that it never made sense to promote me when I'm doing the work of 4 to 5 others. Yeah. On the flip side of that, I've had performance reviews where I am told, and I quote, "You need to stop caring so much. You're making the other managers look bad." Maybe they should care more. You need to stop working so hard and caring so much and doing such a good job. You're making the other managers look bad. Like, that shit breaks me. What? Okay. So as always, we need to diminish ourselves to fit in with the fucking bell curve mainstream of mediocrity. Fuck off. Yeah. Tony says, I've heard that too. Let me see if I can find that thought again.
Same argument, right?
Right.
Same argument. The employers. But so this is why I don't hire autistic people, because I've got to do all this stuff for them to make them, where other people, I give them a job, they just do their job. Like, this is a problem. This is a big issue they face. Like, I can give all the autistic people in the world the advice about
not doing it.
Accommodations and try and help you thrive, and they're going to get the same response from most employers, right? It's, well, Jesus, mate, I mean, I hired you to do the job. Can you just do the job? That will always be a barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting the way this can play out through neuroism, because oftentimes when we're gauging who is going to get opportunities in workplaces, it's because success at work is not just about having a job and being present.
Keep listening,
success
Lisa.
At work is, do you have the opportunity to grow, to develop? Are you able to move upwards if this is part of what you want for yourself? And oftentimes when employers make, this is very strongly evidenced in the research, when employers make decisions about who is going to get those opportunities, not just in the interview room, but who's going to get a promotion, who's going to be tapped as a leader for a given project, those decisions are often made with unconscious bias. And unconscious bias is when we make decisions that are informed by stereotypes, but we're not aware that we're doing it. So it's those, subtle beliefs. I'm not sure this opportunity is right for this autistic person because maybe they won't want to attend more meetings. So maybe they're not right to be a supervisor. And sometimes, and this is really, really important, people who are attempting to act as allies in this space will often behave in exclusionary ways in the belief that they are helping. I'm preventing you from experiencing suffering because I don't want to ask you for things that you're not capable of. And they assume you're not capable and they don't give you opportunities. And in fact, they're inflicting suffering on you by excluding you, because it's very evident when this is happening. But they think they're helping. So if you're an ally and you're watching this, it's really important. If you're trying to make a decision about how to support a neurodivergent person in the workplace, do not assume. Ask, what do you want for your development in the workplace? Where do you think your strengths lie? How can we align your workflow to align with the strengths that we hired you for? And where are the areas where we can use a team-based approach to offer support where you need it? Everyone has strengths and limitations. And the thing is, we tend to assume the autistic person is the only one with limitations in the workplace that need to be worked around. This is not true. In some
Pause. YouTube gives each creator, well, small creators like me, 10 memberships to gift out each month. Never, ever, ever, or maybe once, not being hyperbolic, a little bit. Never, ever, ever has YouTube allocated those 5 the 10, I just gave out 5, I got 5 more, to someone in the chat. Although it does often happen when y'all do it. YouTube, come on now. We've never seen those names before. Thanks, though. Yay, new shorties. Welcome.
and with the strengths that we hired you for, and where are the areas where we can use a team-based approach to offer support where you need it. Everyone has strengths and limitations. And the thing is, we tend to assume the autistic person is the only one with limitations in the workplace that need to be worked around. This is not true. In some cases, for example, often I've seen neurodivergent employees who are excellent project managers, planners. They can think ahead, they can structure them, they can anticipate risk, they can anticipate barriers. And sometimes they have that strength in a way that their neurotypical colleagues do not. Not always, but sometimes. And I think it's just important to acknowledge that even neurotypical colleagues will have areas that they're not as strong in, and neurodivergent people may bring strengths as well as limitations. So if we move past that, neoliberal approach of every individual should be able to do everything independently all the time, and we think of the team as an ecosystem, and how can we cater our workflow and our leadership around that ecosystem? What different creatures, if you will, do we have here? What are the supports that we're able to provide? Which environments are they going to thrive in? That's when we start seeing genuinely neuro-inclusive leadership.
It's not my intention to hurt or offend anyone right now, but I really want to share this thought of mine. Allies in the context of autism is the most despicably patronizing thing I've ever heard in my life. It's the idea that somehow I'm at war, I have enemies and allies. I mean, there's people who are kind and compassionate, and there's people who choose not to be kind and compassionate, but both people are able to do both things. So this idea, I'm sorry, I don't want to get triggered. I'm getting triggered. I'm not trying to upset you. I hope I don't.
Pause. Steph, good job. Mike, welcome to Shorties. Now, if we can just get Ms. Woozy to get one. Good job, Steph. Mike, welcome to Shorties. Welcome to Green. You're already, everyone's a shorty. Everyone's a shorty, regardless of whether you're green or grey or blue. We don't see color here. I can't even see the green, frankly, on the screen. But yay, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. You're in the draw again. Let me go back, because poor Orion has got a very good point. The term ally I hadn't heard. I've only ever heard of advocacy, and mostly I think self-advocacy. But when you've got someone on your side to advocate alongside you, it's different to allies, because it's a very adversarial term, isn't it? Oh wait, this one. There we go.
Despicably patronizing thing I've ever heard in my life. It's the idea that somehow I'm at war, I have enemies and allies. I mean, there's people who are kind and compassionate, and there's people who choose not to be kind and compassionate, but both people are able to do both things. So this idea, I'm sorry, I don't want to get triggered. I'm getting triggered, but I'm not
triggered as fuck.
I hope I don't upset you or other people, but if I swear to God, if I hear ally or autistic ally one more time, I honestly, would you like a medal?
Gotcha.
Like, do you get a war medal for being, I was an autistic ally back in the 20s? Like, is there a march? Do you go, is it, whatever. I'm going to the next question. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone.
This is a whole episode, Orion. Like, we need to do a whole episode on.
Pause. We do need to. Miss, what the fuck? Stop that now. But yay, you're just trying to get woozy one, aren't you? Thank you, Miss. What the fuck? That's Mike. Thanks, Steph. I put Mike in the drawer instead.
Allyship, red flags and green flags, I think.
Okay, we will. We can make it the next one. I'm not sure how quick it'll be. We'll try. At least the positive section. I'm sorry. I apologize again. All I'm doing is apologizing today. All right, next question. Here we go from Sarah Robertson.
Another question.
All right, Sarah. I'd love to understand better why I leave all my jobs and what I can realistically do about it. This is a great one. The reasons I have for leaving are colleague or manager aggression, boredom, and not enough hours or pay to live even frugally, which, you know, is another thing, right? The disproportionate rates of underemployment, which therefore means, you know, underpay as well. This is a great question.
Yeah.
It is a great question. I'm going to, before she gets into her answer, the rate of homelessness in the States. God, I'm down. I should have thought about this before I started talking. It was something like, officially, statistically, I think it's much higher, but I think, what is it? 1 in 20 people are neurodivergent. Is it less? Officially, bullshit. I call 1 in 3. But the rate of the ratio of homeless autistic people who are homeless in the States, it's something like 20% of homeless people are autistic in the States. I don't quote me on my numbers, but it's that kind of disproportionate. And obviously homelessness comes from not generally not having the long-term financial stability to be able to maintain housing security, right? Mental health issues, and often drug use or self-medicating, gambling, drug use, reckless behaviors, which are quite often all part and parcel of trying to cope long-term, survive in a neurotypical world. I remember that was one of the first statistics, and it was when I was homeless, so I was interested. One of the first statistics I became aware of, admittedly, they were US-based statistics, but the ratio is officially 1 in 20 people, 25 people are neurodivergent in the States. Someone correct me on my numbers, but 1 in 5 homeless people are neurodivergent.
Fantastic question. So I think, it's going to be really multifaceted, and it's also going to be unique to the individual in terms of why the jobs are being left. But in terms of the systemic factors that are going to be influencing a lot of people, that neurotypical culture in the workplace is going to be a big one. And this creates kind of a cycle, because what happens is you'll get hired. And oftentimes we have this when we bring in a group that is underrepresented in a workplace, right? We may have a diversity-based hiring initiative, or we may seek to diversify our workforce and bring in a new hire, but then we see them as someone who needs to fit in, not as a cultural ad like we just spoke of. And what can happen is this group is then treated differently. So step one, we bring in a new group who's underrepresented in the current workplace. In this case, autistic people. Step two is that the autistic person is treated differently. And this can look like we just talked about, you're getting a different workflow, you're getting excluded from opportunities, you're not getting brought along to meetings because people assume you won't be able to handle the politics of the meeting. There's all sorts of unconscious biases that result in that individual being treated differently. Step 3 of that cycle is the individual will then start to raise concerns. I'm not being treated like my peers, and I'm feeling uncomfortable with the way that I'm being treated or spoken to. Oftentimes, there's a lot of very direct ableism happening in these cases. I've heard clients sharing all sorts of stories, like just to share some direct quotes, we won't put you on stakeholder management because we know autistic people don't like making phone calls. Things like this, where we assume that we're helping by excluding someone. And I want to be really clear for any allies watching, exclusion is never the answer to inclusion. It seems obvious, and it seems like something we shouldn't have to say, but it's not obvious enough. Exclusion is never the answer to inclusion. You are not including someone by leaving them out on the basis that you don't think they're capable. So often what will happen is the autistic person experiences ableism, team dynamic becomes tense, they raise concerns about this, and then it's flipped back on them. Maybe you misread my tone. Maybe you didn't understand me correctly. Oh, I'm an ally. I would never mean to say anything hurtful to you. And allyship then gets weaponized against a neurodivergent person because neurotypical privilege is believed, and neurotypical people are believed, they're seen as honest, and you're seen as deceitful. This can lead to what we call minority stress. So there's an excellent researcher, Monique Botha, who researches minority stress in autistic people. And minority stress is when a group of people experience disproportionately poor mental and physical health outcomes as a result of the physical and emotional stress they experience because of their social disadvantage. So if you're constantly needing to advocate, disclose, request support, raise discomfort, educate in the face of ableism, it's exhausting, it's stressful, your nervous system's going haywire because you're needing to sit there with someone senior to you and explain to them, this hurt me and I'm hopeful we can change, but they're the only ones with the power to change it. It's an exhausting process. There's very strong research documenting how this carries out in the workplace. Now, once you start experiencing minority stress, this is pretty much a direct lead in to burnout. We all know autistic burnout is a terrible thing to experience. We've done an episode on that, Orion. And burnout is when you are exhausted to the point that it is not possible to continue with the skills that you would usually have, and you will start to experience skill loss and a greater need for rest. This makes it very difficult to participate in the workplace. Many people start experiencing more non-speaking episodes, more migraines, more overstimulation, and it's really difficult to participate when you are facing all of those barriers. Masking is another component that leads into burnout, and masking is again linked to that neurotypical workplace culture that you're trying to adapt to. Now, once this cycle plays out, it leads typically to the employee leaving, because changing the system, changing the culture, changing the institution, changing the neuroism and ableism and neurophobia is not a task one person can carry out through advocacy. It requires everyone getting involved, learning, growing. Again, we see the person as an add into the culture and not someone who needs to fit in. That's not a task one person can do alone. They require genuine allies who are willing to, and this is the core of allyship, leverage their privilege and transition it to the oppressed group, so that rather than their privilege being up here and yours being down here, not that they surpass you, but it starts to become at least a little bit more equitable, right? How can I use my position to support this group in advancing their causes that they deem appropriate? When do they need my help? What can I do to help them? And we're just not seeing that a lot of the time. So it's a lot easier for an autistic person to remove themselves from the toxic environment, remove themselves from the environment, creating burnout, and try again somewhere else.
Pause. And that's exactly what I'm about to do. That's exactly what I'm about to do. my main concern, I'm also thinking of changing careers. I'm planning to change careers, the job I do completely. So this is a high stressor for me. Jamie, hi, welcome. You're very welcome. I think that might have been me, or maybe Ms. What the Fuck. Welcome. Come on, stopping by. It's a beautiful, friendly chat. We'd love to have you hang for a while.
Number one, you're legit just trying to trigger me now with the ally stuff. I know you are. You're taking the piss, and enough is enough. Number two, and this is a genuine and real experience that I get too, is that you said it yourself. You start to feel in the workplace kind of isolated or passively aggressively pushed out, or, you're like, but then if you were able to tell your employer, I feel like I'm being treated differently, and here's some situations, it'll just look like it's all about you, isn't it? Or you're so sensitive. All you care about is that Karen didn't offer you a Tim Tam or something. But of course, the core reasons behind that aren't just that action. They are, how did that happen? Why are these people excluding you or being passively aggressive to you or personally going out of their way to, make sure that you're not included? I mean, that's more, and then that comes down to, well, probably because of the way as an autistic person, I communicate, I read the room, I pick up tones, the way I am as a person is so different for them. They've chosen that to happen. Where, of course, when you bring these issues up, the employer will just say, I mean, come on, mate, like, It's not high school, buddy. You just do your job, it's almost impossible to navigate that.
Yeah, and this is where we come back to oftentimes the neurotypical person will be given the benefit of the doubt because they're performing honesty in a particular way. They fit into the culture. And the other thing that can happen is, we had a great team culture before you got here.
Yeah.
So if there are problems and there's tension now, you're the only
problem.
change, which means you are the problem. And that's not the case at all, because if we're taking that additive approach, if we're adding someone into the culture needs to grow around that person. And if there are problems, that's because there are conflicting cultures coming up against one another. And one of those cultures is dominant and it's prevailing. And when you take the stance, you're not a good cultural fit, you are saying, I am going to maintain the status quo where I am privileged in this workplace because the cultural norms are built around my needs, and it's easiest and most beneficial for me if it stays the same, because I will continue to progress. I will continue to get leadership opportunities. I will continue to grow, and I don't want to have to compete with you for that. So no, I'm not going to change my culture around you. And I think
pause also Ms. What the fuck says, okay, I need to hire her. Like for me as a casual paid worker, the treatment I've I don't think they even realize how deeply personally I've taken the turn of events in my company, and the shift allocation in the last month is just absolutely rocked me to the core. But as a casual paid person who lives by themselves and has to pay every cent of everything herself, to have my income go from being at the start of the year a solid 45-hour week, regardless of the hours I worked, and we had a travel allowance. I'm earning now, and it's not even consistent anymore, up to $400 less a week, because of their favoring favorites. And that's a lot. That's a big loss. That's almost a third of my income, less than what I was earning 10 months ago. And now and I can cope with that when I was feeling valued and recognized by way of the consistency of my placement with a permanent crew. To have that taken away, in addition to the lost income, it's going to be a no for me. You're going to affect me mentally, emotionally, and financially. And in terms of consistency, as an autistic person, to have the regular routine of knowing where I'm going every day, and the signs I'm setting up, and the people I'm working with, and the site I'm working on, I can't do it. I can't do it. So
that conflict of interest is not something that is spoken about enough.
100%. Yeah. And I look, sometimes I think what will change, what will happen, and I get sad.
He's rocking more and more now.
The sheer amount of work to be done to make it any better is insurmountable. Also, my
mental health matters more than
what is the point of a HR department with regards to the modern day workplace if there are going to be neurodivergent people, if the entire way of learning HR and building policies is, again, as you would say, through a neurotypical lens. I'm not entirely sure. We can't just add things on and expect it to be okay. I feel like it needs to be completely rewritten. But yeah, I can't see it happening, frankly. I just don't understand,
Pause, because you guys will not be surprised. I was listening to this, not watching. So watching her, it started off as a very subtle rock, right? This is triggering for her. This is triggering for Lady Beth, Dr. Beth. It's triggering for a lot of us. And actually, at the end of this episode, Orion does acknowledge the fact that this may well have been a particularly triggering or emotionally draining, confronting set of facts and a conversation for many people. And yeah, but it's important we can't just not think about things because they're hard, right? We can't just not talk about things because they're confronting. So here we are.
We're supposed to get this done, even for my kid, right? It's just, yeah. I feel deflated, Beth.
It's a really challenging space, Orion, and I think this is emblematic of what a lot of autistic people experience. And this is really what minority stress is. It's that progressive chipping away over time at your morality, your sense of humanity, your sense of dignity, the microaggressions that are coming your way on a daily basis that just persistently undermine your credibility, your right to be there. And it's very dehumanizing and very exclusionary, and the emotional and psychological toll is well documented in research. So if anyone's out there feeling like that, and you've witnessed these patterns happening in your life, take some solace in knowing that, not that we want to take solace in other people's suffering, but you're not alone in this. And there's very strong research showing this is a typical outcome.
Okay.
Pause. Let me just go. Britt asks, "What is she a doctor in?" Let me see if I can. What am I doing? Get rid of that. He did say at the beginning. She's a. I think she's a. Sorry, Blair Witch. Let me. You know what though? Let me just. Can I highlight that? Why? I want to. Okay, wait. Here we go. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'll drop into the chat. Okay, so Dr. Beth, this is you. Oh wait, share this tab instead. Why isn't it letting me do that? Let me just read it to you. Trust me. Dr. Beth Radulski is an autistic sociological researcher, consultant, and public educator specializing in neurodiversity inclusion. Her multi-award-winning doctoral research saw her develop best practice principles for neurodiversity inclusion. Dr. Beth is an internationally recognized, and I'll drop this into chat now if you want to copy the link. This is her website from which I'm reading. She is an internationally recognized keynote speaker and media commentator on neurodiversity, bringing a unique perspective that blends research and lived experience. A deep believer in translating research to the public, Dr. Beth is an educational content creator with over 65,000 TikTok followers. Thanks, Princey. Dr. Beth's work has been cited in the Forbes magazine, the Harvard Business Review, The Conversation. She has advised globally recognized brands such as GHD, Redbubble, the National Museum of Australia, and Arena Media on issues of neurodiversity inclusion. So I just dropped that. I'll drop it in again if you want to have a look more about her, or Ms. What the Fuck, contact her. It's there. It's called advocateneurodiversity.com. So that. Now let's get back. She's great, isn't she? And thanks for the compliments on my hair. I love it. I hated my hair before. I hated it. And now I love it. So, and hairdressers, pish posh, who needs them? I'm just going to cut it myself. Every time. Finally, a hair cutting exercise with Shorty ends up in success, not disaster. Didn't touch my fringe, by the way. My bangs didn't touch them.
Okay, well, I'll just add that to the emotional and psychological toll of taking my boys on school holidays. You can add that as well. There's a lot to balance. But seriously, Beth, what we're going to talk about now with the next question is one of the key things, really, reasonable adjustments. So, and this is, people don't often realize this, in the school setting or in the workplace setting, there 100%. Are things that are actually enshrined in law with regards to disability, discrimination, human rights, these kind of things, and the things that are not. Now, most parents don't realize that an individual learning plan is actually completely optional. No one has any legal requirement to do that for your child. But here's the thing. Here's what the school never asks you to help make, and here's what's actually legally required, and that's a behavioural support plan with actually enshrined reasonable adjustments that are not only run by you and you have time to talk to them on a regular basis, but then they are amended. Schools don't want you to know this, and you need to tell the schools this, okay? And this is no different to the workplace. Reasonable adjustments, enshrined in something, is actually part of law. So it's not about you deserve an individual education plan or working plan. No, that's just an optional thing if you want to be a really great schooler.
It's going to rock yourself into the camera in a minute.
But what you do need to do is, if you're going to hire someone who is disclosed they are an autistic person, right, that is a medically diagnosed neurodevelopmental disability by legal standards, that they are required to receive reasonable adjustments at school and at work to fulfill their role. Now, of course, this is, I might as well have just settled that in Chinese, right? No employers know that, care about that. And by the way, I could talk to discrimination lawyers, and I have, by the way. They themselves will tell you, look, I'm really sorry to say this to you, but I practice this, and the system is not built to help the disabled, discriminated win. Like, facts. We can go to court, or we can do these things.
Cause, and again, and I don't want to speak for Amber, Law Nerd Amber, one of our beautiful friends and mods. She came up with the same kind of advice when she was looking into legal avenues, is that there was just no way to force her employers to make these very simple, basic, fair, reasonable accommodations for her. And actually, there was no recourse for the discrimination they were doling out to her. Horrific. Thankfully, it's gotten, again, I'll say again, it's gotten much better for Amber. She was successful in securing another position in the company where she can work from home, and she is thriving now. And again, more power to Amber for soldiering through some really dark, heavy, traumatic, distressing times.
But I'm sorry, the system will not protect you. It's there in writing, but the courts won't protect you. So, and that's from practicing people. And this is the issue. So reasonable adjustments, let's get to this question, and we can just talk about all these issues. So this is from Eve Holly. What accommodations are reasonable in the workplace for autistic people? We're talking about the issues that Holly has, which is, regulating tone, volume, cadence, speed of speaking, and, poor theory of mind, slow processing speeds. Well, they're not slow processing speeds. They're autistic processing speeds, but, needing a lot of help.
I'm just going to pause. Britt says, yes, Simi, she needs a break. It's a long conversation. It is. So I'm just going to throw it out there to you all that when we do those 6 and 7 hour live streams, even 4 hour live streams, and I'm here on camera with you all, loving every minute, but that's a long time to be switched on when I'm very much a solitude, introverted, need my solitude and my quiet time to recharge. So I'm just going to say, poor me, poor Shorty, poor Lisa, for all these long months of soldiering on and doing what I love every day of my life. No wonder I'm burned out. Oh, and then I do that. Not a professional. God damn.
They help at work. What can I reasonably expect? And in broader terms, adjustments that are reasonable in the workplace for autistic people. This is a great topic to dive into.
Yeah, it's a fantastic topic. And I think one of the first things I want to latch on to before directly answering the question, I'm an academic, I have to make everything complicated, is what you said before, Orion, about all of the systemic formal resolution pathways that are available, legally, legislatively, because I think this is really important for autistic people to know, and also very important for employers to know. There is often an assumption amongst an employer, right, where an autistic person becomes a problem, they're not a good cultural fit, and we need to have them leave. And so they will start trying to create a paper trail that person's been dishonest, that they're incompetent. Every little mistake gets documented in writing and gets blown up into a much bigger deal than it actually would be in a psychologically safe workplace where you could bring your concern to your boss, workshop it, it's a learning opportunity, and so forth. Neurotypical employees are often getting those opportunities, but neurodivergent employees, it's just evidence that you're too impaired to be in that workplace, right? So they'll start creating a paper trail, and they'll assume that once that paper trail is big enough, they can take it through their formal pathway via HR. Now, HR is often there to protect the institution. It's going to act in the interest of the institution to ensure the
Pause. That's exactly what Tony said. What, an hour ago? Didn't you, Tony? You like a I had a, what did you say? Type it again. Something along the lines of Tony. Everything got a lot easier or less distressing when he realised that that HR isn't there for the people. It's there for the company.
institution is not breaking any laws and so forth. So oftentimes there's an assumption on behalf of the employer, if I create my paper trail and I make sure I document everything, I'll just shuffle this off to HR. They'll take it from there. And if I need to get rid of this employee, it won't be a problem. What they don't understand is that HR is not the body that investigates claims related to discrimination. Who investigates claims related to discrimination? The Human Rights Commission. In Australia, it's the Human Rights Commission. Overseas, it can be the Equal Opportunity space. There are bodies that are there specifically to enforce your human rights. And oftentimes what happens, and I've seen this as a consultant, I've seen this, you know.
Sorry, Lady Beth. She is talking on her interests. She could talk for hours. Same. That's why I'm happy. That's why I'm happy that we talk for hours. I love it. I love it. I'm energized afterwards, but I'm also spent. And so there's been times in the last 15 months or so that I've been live streaming when various, usually males, not a lot, but are insistent on taking more of my time and speaking to me on the phone for hours after that. And I'm like, man, I've just been talking for hours. I've been switched on for hours. I need to have some not talking time, and of course taking it personally. So even when you're doing something you love and speaking to something you love, putting passion into something uses more spoons than, that we are already short on, right? Am I right?
Professionally advising organizations where things like this have happened, they feel like it just went from 0 to 60 so quickly. Like, there were a couple little, bubbles along the way where things weren't going well, but like all of a sudden they just took it right to the Human Rights Commission. Well, that's not usually what's happened. It's usually been a series of profound misunderstandings about what an employer's legal obligations are to this individual, and ignorance about how the processes work. That assumption that HR will just come in and fix it. Once it gets out of your hands institutionally, once it is in the Human Rights Commission, HR is out of control. You no longer have control over this. And I think if people understood that, they would probably change their behavior, because sometimes the things that people will put in writing from their institutional, organizational email addresses are not reflective of people that are well-versed in disability policy and legislation. And I think that really needs to change.
And look, one of the key barriers we'll talk about this question for more specifically now. One of the key barriers to reasonable adjustments. So number one, you must acknowledge, I'm sorry, but it's just factual that not just the employee, but the employer must agree to the reasonable adjustments. Okay. So that's a barrier, because number one, you've got to tell them what you think will help you thrive in your role. And number two, they've got to agree to those things. And then number three, they'll definitely try not to do this. But number three, you want to put it in writing. Right? They want to have a document. They don't want a document. There's no document that they want, but they have to be agreed upon. So whether you're a parent of a child, like me, or you're an employee, don't ever kind of fight or, be aggressive in a way where it's like, this is what I need, give it to me. It's like, you need to be able to, work in good faith.
Sorry, I was just, her rocking is really striking to me now. No shade at all. But when I'm time stamping this live stream tonight, for example, when I go back and watch, and I don't trust me, I'm mesmerized. I watch my live streams. When I do watch them back, I watch them like this, like, wow, I'm so funny, I'm so smart, oh my God, I'm so cool. I watch it like a viewer, but also, I'm highly aware of the fact, like, I have to try and sit still. But when I watch back, I realize I do this. I adjust in my chair a lot, not because it's not comfortable. It's relatively comfortable. And I'm like, you got to try and sit more still, man. You got to try and sit more still. You don't want to be pissing people off with the fact that you're adjusting in your chair. Nah, it doesn't stop me.
Reasonable adjustments are something that are enshrined in law with regards to, you're entitled to them. And the issue here is going about them, which very much is what the questions is asking, because it's isn't it funny how they talked about what accommodations are reasonable? And, reasonable adjustments can seem so unreasonable to some people, yet they're so reasonable to us, right?
Yeah, well, but to prove that an adjustment is reasonable is a lot easier than people often think. So with a lot of the reasonable adjustments that are recommended, and there's actually a fantastic website to directly answer the question, finally. There's actually a great website, ADCET, ADCET. It's an Australian website, but it actually breaks down the reasonable adjustments by neurotype, the common reasonable adjustments that are considered reasonable. What is considered reasonable and what is not? It can't produce an unjustified cost to your employer. So like your employer is required to make some adjustments, but if your reasonable adjustment is going to bankrupt them, that's probably not reasonable because the cost is just not justified. But what is reasonable is often more, how would I say this? Employers often underestimate what can be classified as reasonable. They'll take this approach of like that cultural fit approach, where if it's not aligned with the culture, it's not reasonable. That's not good enough. Legally, that's not good enough because what's reasonable is not defined by your existing culture. It's defined by where your culture should be to enhance equity for disability groups. And the really important nuance here is we often think about, and this is where a lot of the misconceptions and misunderstandings come from. We often assume that diversity and inclusion, when it manifests in law, legislation, policy, is about everyone being treated equally. And historically, when we've seen rights-based movements, for women, for people of color, for example, the laws tend to be focused on equal treatment. Women have the right not only to be nurses, but doctors too, just like men, right? We want everyone treated equally. Disability law is very unique because it is not about everyone being treated equally. It is about everyone being treated equitably. Equity meaning it is equitable, it is fair, it is just, it is balanced. Because if our privileged standard is what everyone needs to be treated as in the disability space, what we're saying is, for example, the most crude example would be this government building does not have stairs. If you cannot climb stairs, guess you can't come in and vote. That's not equity. That's equality. Everyone's being treated by the same standard, but the same standard is that abled neurotypical standard of you need to be able to physically climb the stairs. That is not equity. That is equality. Equity is when we have a ramp so that people who can't climb stairs can still get into the building and vote. That's a reasonable adjustment for them to access that building. A very common reasonable adjustment are glasses. We don't even tend to think of very mild vision impairment as a disability anymore because people can just go get a set of glasses. I'm wearing contact lenses right now. And many people use this as a reasonable adjustment. Now imagine if you wear glasses and you are told, glasses are not aligned with our workplace culture. This isn't the image we're trying to create. So if you don't fit into this, you can either not wear your glasses at work, meaning you're not going to be able to see the screen. You're not going to be able to do your work because it will be physically impossible. Or you can find a workplace that is happy to have your glasses present. That's what we're dealing with here. We need equity. I can wear my glasses so I can see as well as you and work as well as you, not equality. You don't wear glasses, therefore I can't either.
So an example of, I've got a kid at school, right? So parents will get agitated because my son might be able to, say, take stimming tools or toys to school and their child who's neurotypical doesn't. And they say, well, that's not fair, right? It's not fair that my child would get reasonable adjustments where he can do this or do that or not do this or not do that, but my child has to. And then they'll actually complain about that. And that's an example of where they're arguing equality, not equity, where what I'm arguing is, if my son's short and we give him a stool and your son's tall, he doesn't need a stool. He can see. He's tall. My son needs the stool to get up to the similar height to your son. Don't say, well, then my son gets a stool too. That's just bloody stupid. Like that is equality, but it doesn't have any relevance in this space. It doesn't make any sense. And I can't tell you that it really is one of the banes of my existence when parents get so huffy-puffy about their neurotypical children not being able to get, do, or be a part of the same things that, say, my autistic child does, like I'm doing it for pleasure. Like all we're trying to do is use these things to get him even to a baseline where he's able to even remotely maybe learn, right? And it's so, yeah, I think that exact argument you're talking about is rife, certainly with parents of kids at school. So in the workplace, it would be no different. And then you have other employers like workmates, being passive aggressive because they're agitated. They don't get to, have what you have or do what you do, when really, again, they're looking at through the entirely wrong lens. There is
a lot of people look at reasonable adjustments as an unfair advantage and as special treatment. So I'll give you an example. Suppose you have a hot desking office, and a lot of the hot desks are in really overstimulating locations for an autistic person. So a reasonable adjustment might be, I don't want a hot desk. I want a dedicated desk within this space that I can use. And maybe I will choose the desk by the window that doesn't have as much overhead lighting. It's a little bit lighter, it's quieter, it's a bit tucked away. That's going to be my desk. Now, imagine a workplace culture where no one else is allowed to choose their desk. They just have to pick what's there when they show up every day. That autistic person becomes the high maintenance one on the team. Why do you have your own desk? I have seen this play out time and time again with coaching clients, with organizations.
Laura, I think you probably got there already, but the hot desk is basically an office where you go in and you take whatever seat, whatever desk, whatever space in the office is available, first come first served, kind of thing, like getting into a lecture theatre or lunch. Hi, Pierre, good to see you. But for some people, it doesn't wouldn't bother them. I would lose my fucking mind if I had to go to a different desk every day. I'd be out. I'm out. No, this is not for me. In fact, in an open share environment, and no, thank you. I will not be doing that job.
Organizations that I'm supporting, why do you get special treatment? And then the team will sort of passive aggressively start to turn away from that employee, because why would they get that and I don't? It's seen as you want special treatment, you want to be treated differently, you want privileges that we're not getting. And what they're not seeing is this is not about obtaining additional privilege. We're not starting at the same point and I'm now getting more privilege and special treatment than you. We're starting here and I might be able to get up to here. This is not taking something away from you. This is just reducing the gap between us that is disadvantaging me. It is not creating a gap that disadvantages you as it's often perceived.
Exactly. And in the case of the school's example with me.
Pause. I'm going to go back to my own example. So my biggest, although I have other contributing factors, I'm not willing to reach out to my employer and say, hey, me being taken off a permanent site and being thrown back into what we call general population and just being rostered wherever in Melbourne with whatever crew for whatever hours, that's actually going to cause me undue emotional distress and will tip me over the edge in terms of my mental health and my mental stability, emotional stability, to a point where I won't be happy. I know that will be viewed as being difficult and high maintenance and seen as being entitled. The irony of that is that the people that have been put on with the crew that I worked with for the last year and a half are part of the favourites who just go wherever they want to go. But I know for a fact that there's no way to articulate it. And they would say, that's just traffic control. You go where you put. And that's a fact. But so if that's the case, and I've thoroughly appreciated and been very grateful for the fact that me as an autistic person who needs routine, sameness, predictability, and stability in where I'm going each day and what I'm doing each day and who I'm doing it with each day. There's no conversation to be had with my employer that won't make me seem like I'm having a little tantrum and stamping my foot because I've feet, because that's not fair that I don't get to be, and that it is directly impacting me. And isn't that so sad? It is just traffic control, and I have been very grateful, but there's no conversation to be had. There's just not. It'll be like I'm giving an ultimatum. So I am. Bye.
It's not like my son's getting anywhere close to your child, right? Just because of these things that your child deserves. Okay, so we just to finish this last question, I don't think it makes sense for us to provide actual ideas on, what you should actually ask for things like tone and volume and speed of speaking and slow processing. What I think is more important we finish on is talking about the better way to come up with those via the end result, which is what is your goals? Like what should your goals be as an autistic person for reasonable adjustments, right? Do you know what I mean? That way people can put that into practice. Like what's the key? If you were trying to tell an autistic person before you write these adjustments, you actually have to think about what you want out of this. Like what would you tell them?
Yeah, so some of the reasonable adjustments you can be asking for as an autistic person are, first and foremost, a flexible working agreement. If you are in a job that does not require your physical presence, then you have a right to work flexibly. So if you're a surgeon, obviously you're going to need to go into surgery. You can't do that remotely from home. That's not going to be reasonable as an adjustment. If you're in any sort of job that is done on a computer, and that is the vast majority of your work, there is a very good chance you can do that at home. If you were able to work from home during lockdowns, or if your job was one that was moved online during lockdowns, you can probably have a flexible work agreement to do that from home. Working from home can really support executive functioning because it reduces the amount of forward thinking and planning that needs to happen in a given day. You're not going to need to get your bus to work. You're not going to need to wake up at an
pause. Can attest the amount of daily forward planning from the minute I open my eyes until the minute I close them at night has been astronomical. I think I know I articulated it to you all when I didn't stream on your Friday night, my Saturday last weekend. I just couldn't push against time. Just one day, couldn't. It's exhausting. And while thanks to our beautiful friend Shunned One, I have now, and this is going to seem weird if you don't know the backstory to this, but I haven't had running hot water in my home since March. And I just got by with boiling the kettle for my dishes and boiling the kettle, boiling water for the occasional like sparrow baths, slopping around and there's so much shame even just attributed to that. My landlord knows about it. But when Shunned One very kindly sent me a camp shower, a USB pump that pumps shower water through, I can now have a shower every day. It's just the most glorious thing. But wow, the amount of being switched on in the mornings to have the luxury of a shower, to make sure that I can consistently boil kettle after kettle after kettle, but not boil it all the way because then it's too hot, to have enough 25 kettles in the morning when I'm already trying. Don't take your hot running water for granted. That's all I'm saying. Because Lord, like, it keeps me probably better focused. I'm better. I have been better focused on time now because I'm like, chop. I got 25 kettles to boil on top of everything else I'm doing every morning. Like, it's the most glorious thing. The most glorious thing. Yes, thank you, Shunned One. What a beautiful friend. And it's amazing. But wow, add that into the mix in the mornings. Like, fuck, I can't anymore. Anyway, all that. Carry on, Lady Beth. Dr. Beth.
earlier hour and plan your morning and structure it in such a way that you're not going to be home. You need to remember to bring everything with you. It's a really great reasonable adjustment for executive functioning challenges.
Absolutely.
It's a really great reasonable adjustment for sensory.
Pause, Laura. Let's not even forget the fact that in the DSM-5, it's called autism spectrum disorder. That goes in there with bipolar disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, autism spectrum disorder. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I hate when anyone types ASD or says ASD. My hackles, my bristles go straight up. I hate it. Same with ADHD. Please. It's a different neurotype, but society sees like that's subliminal. And it's overt. Disorder equates to mental illness, mental disability, a disorder. The verbiage is just ugh.
Overstimulation challenges of being physically present in an office space. Other reasonable adjustments include a note taker or a transcriber. So there are lots of great technologies that will do this now. So Otter is one example of that, where you will have a right to have a note taker in a meeting with you so that you can focus on the meeting rather than taking the notes. You can use closed captions if you struggle with auditory processing or you have slower auditory processing speeds, and it might help you to see the words on the screen as opposed to simply hear them. You can ask in a similar vein, another reasonable adjustment is that you can ask for written instructions as opposed to verbal instructions. It's really useful if you have a supportive boss, if you can kind of coach them a little bit, that rather than providing with paragraphs of text via an email, can you use numbered steps? I want you to do this, this, this. Justification. Why are you doing each step? It's just a couple of lines. It doesn't take any longer than it would take them to say it in a meeting, but it will help you carry out your work more effectively and with.
I'll go one step further and just say, even just in communications, private DMs, posts, tweets, Discord messages. I don't always do it, but I try really hard to break up my autistic as fuck monologues, soliloquies, diatribes, soapboxing, whatever, TED Talks, into visual, more digestible blocks of text. If someone, doesn't matter, if someone sends me an epically long one single paragraph, whether that's wherever, my brain scroll through. I can't absorb it. And then I tend to miss things. I think Lainey can attest. I mean, even neurotypical. Typical says normal. Typical is a synonym for normal. It's just, I hate the verbiage. But like Lisa Shelton, Bluebird, asked me a question in Discord about my music writing. And I don't think it was necessarily that long, but I went on this big long reply. I don't think I put any paragraph breaks because when I get particularly impassioned, I didn't. And I thought I was replying to Lainey because my brain saw the L. Oh, I don't even know what my brain did. I probably didn't have my glasses on. Lol. So long blocks of text, just a sidebar, don't work for me. I won't absorb it. I won't read it. My brain can't. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I can't. Maybe that's how our brains are supposed to work. It's just different. I go, yeah, I know it was Lisa. I go to great lengths when just to clarify that neurodivergence is just a different brain. It's not less than. We're not less than. We're different. And I celebrate difference. Imagine how boring the world would be if we were all the same. We all like the same music, or like the same politics, or like the same color, the same kind of food. We all like the same. Different brains. Words matter. And I really hope that at some point in the next 20 years or sooner, autism spectrum disorder and ADHD, what is it? A. What does A stand for? What does A stand for? attention hyperactivity deficit disorder. Is that what it is? ADHD. Yes, that's it. Fuck. Exactly. It'd be boring as fuck. What would we have to disagree on? All right, we've got about 5 more
room
minutes.
for confusion.
4.
Other reasonable
3.
adjustments: wearing headphones if you're in an open plan office. Like, a lot of offices don't like you wearing headphones because it's not cool with the team culture. We want people to be casually socializing in an ad hoc fashion. That doesn't.
Sorry, lady. You know what, Laura? I think anybody who is has a high degree of specialty in anything is probably neurodivergent. I think that the number of neurodivergents in this world, I honestly believe that it's about 1 to 3. 1 to 3. Neurotypical to, neurodivergent to neurotypical. 100%.
Work for a lot of autistic people. It doesn't work for a lot of neurodivergent people. ADHD commonly co-occurs with autism. It can make it really difficult to focus if your attention is
100%
being
woozy.
directed to all the sounds
Hyperfocus.
around you rather than staying on your work. So those are some of the reasonable adjustments. You can also, if you're a student, you can request additional time with assessments. You can request a private exam room if you need to sit exams so that you're not overstimulated. You can request more time for exams. Now, the purpose of getting these reasonable adjustments, like we said, it's not special treatment. It's not so that you have an unfair advantage over other people. It's so that you can complete your work effectively. And really importantly, part of this is ensuring that not only can you do your work effectively, but can you participate in your workplace without experiencing unnecessary stressors that will increase
Lady Beth.
your level of disability or impairment in that workplace. So if masking is a major stressor for you, for example, a reasonable adjustment might be turning your camera off in meetings.
Great.
Because then you don't have to worry about your facial expressions and sitting still. And that's going to improve your well-being, because
about live
there's very
streaming?
strong research showing that masking leads to burnout, headaches, nausea, all sorts of things that are going to make it hard for you to do your job.
Amen. The way I am jealous / envious of people, live streamers like Salty Sleuth, who Ms. What the fuck, like who have their avatar and don't have themselves on display the whole time. The way I am envious, but I think part of my appeal is my gesticulating. I mean, we've all seen me going when there's testimony in court. Anyway, oh, the way I'm jealous. The number of spoons I would still have to live stream if I was just my avatar. If I could sit here the way I look when I get up in the morning, that'd be heaven. God, my facial reactions. And then if I wasn't on camera, who would say, what's wrong with her mouth? Why does she only speak out of one side of her mouth? Is she ill? Yeah, I'm a sick cunt.
This is a heavy topic. I can feel it. I can't believe how heavy this topic is, how much it brings up just talking about it. I feel like people, watching this will have got a lot out of this, but also maybe quite drained.
So I hope this will be a bit of a message of hope. I'm not sure how hopeful it will sound, but as we know, 1 in 5 autistic people has lost a job specifically because they are autistic. And, I want to be really clear. I'm 35. I've had many jobs in my life, so I'm not going to specify which one, but I have lost a job specifically because I'm autistic in the past. It's a really terrible experience. And it can be really pernicious and happen slowly and gradually over time through that sense of not fitting into the culture. So if you've had this experience, you're not alone. It happens to so many of us. And, one of the great things about neurodiversity becoming more prominent is that we're now having a lot of research on how to improve this area. So my own PhD actually theorized best practice principles for neurodiversity inclusion. There were 6 of them, and you can download my thesis for free on my website, which I think Orion will put in the video description. But if you're an employer looking to enhance best practice, that is a great place to start. If you're an autistic person wanting to know what that can look like, what a genuinely inclusive workplace would look like, we actually did a case study where we took a university placement program and tried to make it neuro-inclusive, and we had great results. So if you want to see what a neuro-inclusive workplace looks like and feels like, you can go and read my thesis, and I believe it's chapter 9. So hopefully that will provide a little bit of hope for some people and some thinking blocks to help get them started.
Boom. There we go. What am I doing? Fuck, that came out of nowhere. Ah! Actually, this is the next video that I'm not sure we'll watch. We can see. We've been going for 2 hours. I don't know if it's late for you all or whatever. I recently clicked on a Substack link from Twitter to read about something that I've been hyper focusing on this week. And much to my delight, the author, the journalist who'd written the article, had included an audio version at the top. Like, thank you God, it was so much easier to absorb with the audio there. Now Ms. What the Fuck suggested, given my little mini rant about ADHD and ASD, here, let's listen to Baby Shorty talk about it. I'm going to take that a little bit further and say that I don't like when he says people who have ADHD and autism. I prefer I have ADHD and I am autistic, because autism neither is ADHD, but isn't something you just can carry around and then put down and pick up at your leisure. So I prefer I have ADHD, don't love the disorder part, nor the deficit part, because God knows I'm focused on everything all the fucking time, except the time. And ASD, it's going to be a hard no from me. I am autistic. I have ADHD. That Baby Shorty, she's so wise. She's so wise. Now, I haven't watched this one. It's half an hour, 27 minutes. What is it? Wait, let's go back. We can have a let's read the description. So I like, for number one, I like this because she's not a white cis male. No offense, Orion. It's from a channel called The Thought Spot. And what does the description say? She's pulled a shorty. There is no description. The title is called Autistic Burnout and Jobs. So one's in the chat. If you'd like to watch this together while we're here. 2's in the chat if you say, Shorty, go fuck yourself. Wow, that's harsh. I'll wait. 1's in the chat if you say yes. Ms. What the Fuck says, yes, please. Ms. Midweek, Camp Shorty. Ooh, I don't like the label cis. It's the only reason I said it is because it's been all in the vernacular on the Twitters this last week. 3, watch after song. Good idea. Done. Everybody said 1. Nobody said 2. Lucky, because go fuck yourself, Shorty is harsh and probably not fair. I suppose you all want to listen to Shine. Is that what I'm picking? Am I picking up what you guys would be putting down on the song choice? 1, says Pierre. Unknown. Tony, well, you can fall asleep to the dulcet tones of Shorty. Lol. Do you even have to ask? Shine. Okay, got you. No, we don't have to ask. I know y'all too well. What about this?
Now some music. The supreme leader decrees it.
Good people shine the brightest in the darkest times. And wishes are like beauty, they are vain, vain things. Expect nothing at all, girl, but never lose hope. Walk a fine, fine line, give me just enough rope. Shine, shine, it's gonna be fine. Time is construct of your mind. A lie unchecked becomes the truth, you know, time after time. Ephemeral and fleeting, fortunes always meet and run in circles. Water level things gonna be just fine. Shine, shine, it's gonna be fine. Time, time, time is all mine. Fine lines, hard times make you who you are, but it ain't no option, girl, already come this far. Shadow in the construct of your mind. A lie unchecked becomes the truth, you know, time after time. Ephemeral and fleeting, fortunes always meeting, run in circles, water level things gonna be just fine. Time, time, it's gonna be fine. Time, time, time is all mine. Fine lines, hard times make you who you are, but it ain't no option, girl, already come this far. Whoa, now slow down, what you gonna do? Lamplight and lifelines, the lighting circles you. Opportunity, community, living, breathing entity, creation, foundation, building your eternity. Time, time, it's gonna be fine. Time, time, time is all mine. Fine lines, hard times make you who you are, but it ain't no option, girl, already come this far. Shine, time, fine, mine. Walk that line until the end of time, 'cause good people shine brightest in the darkest times.
It is a bloody good one, isn't it? It's a bloody good one. Pick you up. Pick you up. So okay, this lady. What am I doing? Here, this, and this. As I said, I haven't watched this. We can roast if we want to roast. How many views has it had? Let me see. I'm sure it isn't going to be roast worthy. There's not much. There's actually not much about it. It's almost had 280,000 views. It's from 4th of February, 2022. Have I liked it? No, rude. Well, so let's go. I don't know what this lady's name is. Let's go. I'm not going to jump ahead. Let's watch. We like it.
Hey guys, welcome back to my
Right.
channel. So on today's episode of The Thought Spot, I wanted to talk about past jobs that I've worked, mainly customer service related jobs. And I think it's going to be a very interesting topic because of my recent diagnosis of autism. So let's talk about that. So some of you may be asking yourselves, Irene, why is it interesting that
Irene.
you were only working customer service related jobs? And my answers to you guys is because a lot of people have this conception that autism means that you are this awkward person that doesn't know how to socialize, maintain relationships, whatever. And for many people that could be true, but for many other autistic individuals, whether you're diagnosed or not diagnosed, you could seem like you are a very sociable person on the surface. You may seem like you could maintain relationships, conversations really well. A lot of that could be because you genuinely like to connect to others. Part of that could also be because you've mastered masking and camouflaging socially. Whatever it means to you, I feel like we can begin to rewrite and re-evaluate our understanding of what autism means in general. Because autism is a spectrum, right? Autism will look different, sound different, smell different,
We are all
depending
ice
on
cream
who
flavors.
you're interacting with. And one quote that I really loved seeing when I was doing a lot of research with looking for autistic creators on the internet is, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. And it's so ironic that an autistic woman is giving the advice to other people to not pinhole everyone under one idea of what you think that person is, therefore everyone else has to embody those exact traits. But what I'm trying to say is autistic people are also very, very unique. Just like how a neurotypical person is not going to be like another neurotypical person that you know. Someone that doesn't have ADHD, autism, or any sort of neurodivergencies isn't going to be the same as another person who also doesn't have neurodivergency. If I explain it that way, it might seem like such a simple concept to grasp, but given how society learns about what autism means, we learn to have these very strong stereotypes of what autism means. And hopefully, as the years go by, we could begin to tear down those misconceptions and those stereotypes and begin to see, like, there's so many people out in the world and so many people that have yet to be diagnosed and come out with their autism that may not seem autistic whatsoever, and very much so may well be. I'm pretty sure there's a plethora of celebrities and actors who are autistic.
Absolutely.
And we just don't know it, because
Most of them.
the extent of how we could learn to camouflage in this neurotypical world could be very, very intense and detailed, and we may know how to act them out to a point where no one will be able to see it. I'm sure everyone in my
I've said this before, but I guarantee you sex workers, prostitutes, escorts, I guarantee you a very, very high percentage of them, since time began, oldest profession in the world, are neurodivergent. I guarantee you. Find a better woman on the face of the planet to be whoever they need to be in the situation. There's no one better. Guarantee you.
life would have never suspected me to be autistic. I'm sure a lot of people who watch my videos would never think that I would be autistic, but here I am, diagnosed at the age of 25 with level 1 autism. So with that being said, I want to get into some of my past jobs. If I were to give you guys a list of all the jobs I've ever worked in my life, they were all customer service related jobs. All of my jobs had to do with interacting with people, because ultimately, I like to connect to people. Ultimately, I like to serve others. I like to be there for others. I like to connect to others.
I love
Just
her.
really quick to list off some of my jobs. My first job was to teach little kids and autistic individuals how to swim. I worked that job for a few years and I loved it. I worked as a waitress. I worked as a barista. I worked as a teacher. All of these jobs had to do with working with others. I never worked a job where it just was me by myself in an office, in a cubicle, whatever. Now that I'm reflecting back on this, I realize I was drawn to customer service related jobs because of a few things. One, because I crave social interaction and social connection, I realized over the past few years that I was only able to get those needs met if I somehow correlated my job to those social interactions. Because in my personal life, I have a hard time maintaining relationships and friendships at the momentum and the trajectory as like a neurotypical person would. For example, I have a hard time texting friends. I have a hard time being consistent with that. I get really stressed out when I have to text people. I get really stressed out when someone is texting me a lot, and I feel like I have to message them and think about them at the extent that they think of me. And to be fair, maybe it's not that much work for someone else to be texting me that much and thinking about me that much, but for me, it's a lot of work. When I'm just doing my own thing, going about my day, the last thing I'm thinking about is wanting to talk to someone else and messaging them and spending all that time and energy texting, right? And part of that could be because as an autistic individual who has learned how to mask and camouflage, when you're taking a step away from society, jobs, school, whatever, you're just doing your own thing on your personal time. A lot of that time needs to be spent genuinely decompressing and stimming and just unmasking and replenishing those batteries that are completely drained every time you step
Yes.
out the door. But because it's hard for me to maintain friendships and relationships, it doesn't mean that I still don't have those social needs that need to be met. It's just a lot harder for me to get those needs met because it takes up an equal amount of energy, if not more energy, to try to get those needs met. So it's almost like counterintuitive. If you think about everything as a battery, because everything is an exchange of energy, right? If my social battery needs to be met up here, it takes up energy to get the social battery up. So it's almost like, do I want to sacrifice my energy to get that social battery met? And a lot of the times, no, I don't want to. I need my energy to maintain other aspects of my life, school, job, whatever. So a lot of the times I have to sacrifice that social battery in order to maintain an energetic level for other aspects. And so what I found is over the years, I found a way to get some of those social needs met by correlating that social need into my jobs. I can almost get two birds with one stone. If I'm going to be expending energy
What close? What are you doing?
at a job, I may
Sorry.
as well get those social
Apologies.
needs met. So 1 + 1 is 2, right? I pick a job where I need to socialize and I also get to earn money out of it. And that's what I was doing for many, 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 many years. Even now, as a self-empowerment coach, I get to interact with other people, build.
I'm going to say I strongly concur. The only IRL talking that I ever get to do where people talk back, like you guys chat back. Not always, but most of the time you respond to what I'm saying. But my job is my only social contact. When I have had men, I only work with men. But when I have them be like, you talk too much, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. This is the only human interaction I have. Like I only said 3 sentences. Suck my dick.
Them up, get to know them, check in on them every single week. That's just what I like to do. So the second reason why I feel like I enjoy jobs that force me to interact with others is because it allows me to socialize under the context of that specific script. So I made a scripting video a few weeks ago, which I will link up here. If you haven't watched it yet, go give it a watch, where I talk about the importance of scripting to me, having to know generally what I need to talk about and how I need to talk.
Pause. That's interesting. I have never been a scripting autist. I don't. I never have. But one's in the chat. If you're someone who has scripted things out or planned out what you're going to say prior to going somewhere, not like an interview, but just in daily life, not something I've ever done. I have a feeling it's because from a very young age I was expected to be precocious and delightful and sparkling amongst my, as an only child, my parents' adult friends in dinner parties and all sorts of situations. Okay, yeah, that's a very foreign concept to me. I'm very spontaneous. You might have noticed. I'm not big on preparing at all. Yeah, interesting. I wonder how many, because some people say I script everything, like whether it's actually right. I think they mean thinking about it, like in your head. Who said in my head? Yeah, Pierre. Maybe some people write them down as well. Me, I'm not even sure what's coming out of my mouth as it's coming out of my mouth most of the time.
To someone in the confines of that conversation is super helpful for me. And having a job where I need to socialize, interact, and serve someone else in a specific way because of the context of that interaction really provides like a deep sense of comfort for me to know that I could talk to someone and know that if I don't know what to talk about, I could always fall back on the script of the job. So for example, when I was working as a barista, I would have a lot of regular customers, new customers, and everything in between. It was really nice for me to see the same people every single day, if not every single week, and be able to have those very short interactions with them. And if I ever ran out of things to say, if I ever didn't have the energy to keep up a conversation, I could always stick to the script of I'm the barista, you're the customer, what can I get you? Things like that. And
Pause. back to my sex work analogy, I used to grind my gears so hard when a lot of the girls, because we had an open lounge situation, and a lot of the girls, almost every one of them would walk up to the prospective clients, like there could be anywhere from 1 to 30 gross men in the lounge, perusing the goods for sale. And every girl would walk up and they'd do the exact same thing. They'd go and they'd sit down and they'd next to the guy and they'd say, "Hi, I'm so and so. My name was Sky. Hi." And then they'd sit down and they'd list off their script of my services, this, and this. And I was like, ugh, it's so rigid and boring. And I would go in every single time, and God knows some of the things that came out of my mouth. I think I've told stories about it before, if not, just the lunatic things that came out of my mouth, just because I'd go, "Hi, I'm Sky," and then God, side of the cross, whatever will be. But interesting also these days as I get older. I'm not talking about anything. I'm not going. No, just me being hilariously me, and the number of people who would book me because I was such a crazy person with my absolutely unique. And we'd be walking up the stairs after they paid their money, walking up the stairs to where the rooms were, and they'd be like, "Wow, you really are unique." I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm unique." I had a bit of a shtick once we got there, but it was just because I knew tried and true one-liners that were just so good. Works every time. But these days, I'm okay with not filling up the space with social battery draining chatter and just being silent. I'm sure that's not endearing me to any of the people. I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna small talk with you. We've said a few words. We've said what we needed to say, and now I'm just gonna. I'm like, I'm not here for it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It's so liberating to just, as you get older, go, we've said what we needed to say. Now silence, and I'm fine with it. Let's go back to, what's her name? Irene. I really like her hair. This is the look I was kind of going for when I cut my fringe, but clearly I don't have the bone structure, the volume of hair, or the radiant beauty of this young woman.
And you can't really apply that same script to normal personal interactions, or my worst nightmare, surface level interactions with just an acquaintance or someone you may have known 5 years ago. If you were to just bump into an old classmate at a grocery store, there's absolutely no script. That is like an example of my worst ultimate nightmare.
Same.
I have no idea where the conversation is going to go. I have no idea how to start it. I have no idea how to end it. I have no idea how deep to go into the conversation. If they ask me about my day, I could literally say, "Oh, my hamster just died." I'm actually really depressed. I'm very anxious. And so it's because of those social nuances that makes me very, very anxious, where I would prefer to have social interactions underneath the umbrella of a script. And jobs are perfect for that. Same with waitressing, same with swim lessons. I can interact with people. I could exchange energies with someone and not have to ever worry too much about whether or not I'm really performing within that conversation well enough. Because if anything, I could just be a very good barista. Even if I don't build a genuine deep connection with a customer, I could still deliver them the product that they're looking for and get through that interaction relatively painlessly. And another thing I like about it is once you clock out and go home, you don't have to maintain those relationships. You don't have to think about that person. You don't have to check up on them. It's just kind of nice to know that you could clock in, socially interact, clock out, go home, take the mask off. And to some people, that might not seem fulfilling at all. But for me, for many years, it was something that helped me and helped maintain my needs to an extent. Of course, certain jobs required more masking. Certain jobs really push those buttons of my autism and my ADHD, which exhausted me a lot. And those jobs were just a lot more depleting than satisfying. And I could never last too long in those jobs. I could always tell when those jobs are just not for me, because I will feel absolutely exhausted to a point where any free time I had was just spent sleeping, because I felt like no matter how much I slept or tried to catch up on sleep, my energy reserves were always running on empty, and that was always really hard. And that kind of leads into the next topic I wanted to talk about, which is what were jobs that I found harder to perform in as a woman with autism. And for me personally, that was at my teaching job, ironically, when I was working in ABA therapy. So the last time I worked in ABA therapy, I was in a classroom with another teacher, and we taught various amounts of kids with autism. When I was working this job, I was completely exhausted 24/7. I felt like all my free time was just spent sleeping. I felt very chronically fatigued. And
Pause. I'm just going to say, look, even her dirty paws, she looks glorious. Before I was traffic controller, when I came back to Melbourne from a period of extreme instability, financial and housing instability, and I started to I was doing what's it called, support work, support worker work. So in Australia, we have a thing called NDIS, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which is basically services provided to neurodivergent folk and folk with disabilities. Broader disabilities, helping them with all sorts of various things. It's a federally funded scheme. And the then friend who had very kindly opened her home up to me, owned a company called Bubble Support, which was just her and her husband. They've now divorced. And we did support work. And so her clients were, she was a late diagnosed, a woman, autistic, diagnosed because her son was realized to be autistic as a young child. He was about 8 or 9 when I knew her. But it was such fulfilling work going into, ironically, hoarders' homes. I'm not a hoarder, but I have a lot of piles of stuff. And no night, Lainey. And it was very fulfilling work, but it took so much of my social battery to do that work. A couple of clients, and going into their homes where their energies were this, psychological holding on to things, having to help them untangle that psychological connection between their things, and all of the stuff to unpack from that. And then also, because I was living with my best friend in her home, and feeling this social obligation to hang out and socialize with her, it's no wonder at all that hard and fast friendship forged very quickly and imploded relatively quickly. I think we were hard and fast friends for less than a year. So that job for me was very rewarding, and my first job I'd had in 6 years, traditional job, after chronic unemployment, which was preceded by sex work, which before that I was a legit, it's not a lifelong thing. Anyway, all that to say, I can totally understand how something that can be fulfilling could also suck the life out of you, because that certainly did.
Found myself dreading to go into work every single day because I knew how tiring it was. Literally, the days started to turn into those types of days where you show up to work and 1 hour into work, you're already ready to go to sleep. And you're just looking at the clock, completely discouraged because you know how exhausted you are. And you ask yourself, how can I get myself through the rest of this day? How can I wake up tomorrow and do this all again? And I'm sure a lot of you have been in the same positions, because part of having autism and perhaps ADHD as well is it's just really hard to maintain things in a neurotypical world, especially when they don't give you the accommodations that you need as a neurodivergent person. And a part of the reason why I was exhausted all the time, let's get into this, was not necessarily because of the job itself and the requirements, but the amount of masking it took on my end to interact with the other teacher that I would see every single day, and the other teachers and staff members in that specific school. I've never been the type of person that liked school. I honestly do not like the American school system. I do not like or agree with a lot of American systems in general. I feel like, specifically talking about our school system, it is not built for neurodivergent people. It's just not. Anyways, before I get on a tangent, I did not get along with the teacher I worked with. One, she indirectly required me to mask very intensely. And when I wasn't able to mask at the extent she wanted me to, which ended up happening, a lot of contention ended up forming. So for example, every morning when I showed up to work, I always show up a few minutes early because I am always on time, if not early. I would go into the classroom, and in my mind, I was like, this job exhausts me. So when I show up to work, I'm just going to take a few minutes before the day starts, and I'm going to go on my phone, or I'm going to meditate a little bit, just, you know, get a moment to myself to be quiet and not have to think and not have to put on that mask just yet, and just be there and be me. And once that school bell rang and it was time to interact with people, interact with the kids, I put that mask on and I was ready for the day. That was my way of making those accommodations, but it wasn't good enough for this team.
Pause. I'm going to put my own lived experience into this. Part of the sort of expectation of being a team leader with a work vehicle in traffic control, when you're being in the general population, where you're going to any given site, we get our roster the day before, our job for the next day. The job for the next day comes at about 5 o'clock at night every day, which is ludicrous in itself, but it is what it is. But part of the expectation is that you'll likely, when you're in general population, have a different offsider. So there's an offsider, and you're expected to go and pick them up if it's logistically possible, if they're en route, or you can meet them somewhere and drive with them to save them having the fuel and the driving cost. And then, of course, so you've got a random person. Usually you'll have it's been a couple of years since I've had to do this, but you'll have generally it might be 5 or 10 randomly allocated offsiders over the space of a month. That you might have one offsider for a couple of days, and then you might have someone else, and me on my way to work is my time to just sort of get myself firmly into the headspace of being work Lisa, I guess, putting my mask on and having to sacrifice that driving time where I'm listening to my podcast or my trial or whatever, and getting myself in the game, to have to switch on an hour earlier. And at the end of the day, when I'm fucking done, because it's such an energy drain, a dirty spoon user, a bandwidth sucker, my job, even though I love it, to have to, at the end of the day, then sit and chit chat with this person who is a different person to yesterday and will be a different person than tomorrow, making small talk or deep and meaningful talk. It's yet another component as to why I just can't go back into that general population role, and it feels like a massive demotion when, based on my merits and my experience, my track record, doesn't feel fair. The injustice, so many things. Anyway, I totally get needing to have that time before work to gather yourself and get your head in the zone.
teacher, because a year into the school year, after we started having all these issues, or it was her having issues
20.
with me, I finally confronted her about it. And I said, hey, do you have issues with me, basically? She told me every single morning I come into the classroom, I don't talk to her, which makes her feel like I hate her, which makes her feel insecure and makes her feel uncomfortable. And she feels like I have a scary face because when I'm not putting effort into my facial expressions, I could look very intimidating, which puts her off. When I'm not putting effort into my facial expressions or tone of voice, this is what I look like. So to me inside, I could be very calm, I could be good, but to someone else, I look very...
Pause. That's also relevant again to me. Sorry, but we're here for my commentary, right? A little bit, sort of shared experiences. Like when I'm live streaming here and we're watching trials, the number of times I look and make sure and check and put a smile on my face, because when I'm not smiling, I look kind of, I don't know, resting bitch facey. Like, imagine having to do that for 6 or 7 hours. I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for me. I'm kind of articulating the amount of energy that I put in to being, to masking. Even though me is who I am, putting a smile on every time I catch myself in the camera in front of me. And if I look down at my phone or I'm typing, and when I watch, it doesn't happen that often, but when I watch back, I'm like, oh my God, I look at myself and my concentrating face, which is very slack, very like doing this typing, or if I'm on my phone doing something quickly, and I'm like, so even when I'm doing that, having to put mental energy into what I'm typing or doing on my phone, trying to think, make sure you've got a smile on your face while you're doing that, so you don't look so, like, I don't know, it's pretty exhausting, honestly. Yeah, these are the things, like, I'm thinking about all of this all the time. So when I say, like, having to be switched on, that's what I mean about this being switched on, is that for 6 hours, I'm highly aware, or 4 hours or 2 hours or 3 hours, highly aware that make sure you're looking aesthetic and warm and inviting. Pierre says, I've considered wearing a veil. Girl, the amount of envy I have for the women, not because of their the associated drawbacks that go with it, but for the hijab. Oh, give it to me, girl. Give it to me. I loved wearing a mask. I loved wearing a mask in COVID times. I hated it at first. I felt, but then it was just like, oh, thank God, I don't have to fix my face. I don't have to fix my face. It was the best. I hated I loved it. I don't go anywhere now, so I don't wear a mask, but I made my own beautiful masks. Anyway, back to it. I don't think y'all realize how much I'm thinking. And sometimes it seems like I'm probably not thinking at all. But even about what expression I have on my face.
Scary and intimidating. I always get from other people, even outside of this job, all the time. People say I'm scary. People say they think I'm a bitch. People always say you're so intimidating. People always say I'm surprised you're nice, because when I first met you, I was so scared of you. And it's because I'm only human, and I cannot mask 24/7 to the extent where neurotypical people want me to
any
mask.
covering.
I can only smile so much before my cheeks hurt. I can only change the tone of my voice so much to make someone feel comfortable, especially women. I feel like the amount of masking it takes to interact with neurotypical women is just so exhausting. Like having to smile and then bring your voice up to here and make sure that you're constantly sounding like like you're excited for someone, acting like you're just so happy all the time and so bubbly, and there cannot be any indication of just not being upbeat all the time and just super happy all the time. And so when you're talking like this and you're a lot more calmer and your voice is more monotone and you're not putting effort into the tone of voice and your facial expressions, all of a sudden everyone thinks you're a bitch. All of a sudden everyone thinks you're intimidating and scary and all of these things. And it's discouraging on a personal level, but it's also really frustrating when it gets in the way of your job, when other
pause. That just reminded me, because I'm thinking how my glasses, as much as I need them because I can't see a fucking thing, these are somewhat of my mask. As when I was a sex worker, very quickly I appropriated they were like this. I got them up, but they were clear glass. I wore glasses all the time for years when I went out in public as me, Lisa, when I was working, working, I had my glasses on, and I felt so vulnerable, because I mean, I was wearing basically nothing, like amazing. I looked fucking amazing. God, I miss that. Anyway, but to be the only way I could feel like I could go out there was to put my glasses on, and I felt like I had protection, a literal mask. And then lol, the universe lolled hard at me and said, "Girl, too much looking through cheap, clear Perspex glasses. You need glasses." And now I have no choice but to literal mask.
People
or I'll
begin
squint.
to cause issues in your job due to the fact that you cannot mask in the ways that they want you to, in the ways that makes them feel comfortable. And so there were in total 4 teachers that worked in that classroom. And the teacher that I'm talking about treated the other teachers very nicely. But with me, she was very inconsistent. Every single time I worked with her, I felt like she was scrutinizing me and correcting the way I did things and interacted with the kids, which I had no issues accommodating for. But it was an issue because it was just confusing. She would make a correction that was very specific, like, do not let this kid do this. And I would be like, okay, cool. In my mind, I made a mental note, and I would never do that specific thing with that kid again. And then the next day she would say, why aren't you doing that one thing with this kid? And I would say, but you told me not to. And this specific thing would happen over and over and over again on an everyday basis, to a point where I had no concept of what was right and what was wrong, because I was perpetually getting corrected. And all the correction she was giving me was never consistent with the past correction. And there was just all these contradicting rules. And I remember,
how triggering is that? Set a boundary, set a rule, set a limitation, set a boundary, and stick to it. Ugh. Triggered. That's why I'm so firm on my own boundaries. It's a hard line. If there's a boundary, there's a boundary. There's a boundary. We're doing it. If everybody was
remember bringing this up to her once. I told her, I feel very confused all the time because I don't have a specific list of things that I know I should be doing, because you always give me contradicting corrections. And she was like, that's just what it's like to work with kids. You never know what's right and what's wrong.
She was doing it on purpose.
One day something could be wrong and the next day it could be right. And my mind just could not understand that. And now I know why. Is because I'm autistic and I do not like these changing rules. I don't like inconsistent rules either. And a part of that inconsistency was she would correct me all the time for specific things, and the other teachers I would see would make the same exact mistakes, but she would never correct them. And that was also very confusing to me, because
pause. I'm going to do another one of my real world things. So sometimes in my job, in my traffic control job, we have to leave the road open, and either by myself or me and my offsider will be on the stop go bat, and we'll manage the traffic. We'll control the traffic. We're stopping some so the workmen can do what they need to do in the middle, depending on how busy the road is, what the job's being done. That I love being on the mat. It's very fun. I feel alive. It's as draining as it is. It's fun. It's a system. It's a stop. It's a system. I love it. Other times we will close the road, and depending on whether there's an open trench across the road or just keeping cars from coming in and out of there, because there's works going on in the middle, depends on whether it's a hard closure or a soft closure. So the site that I was just on for 3 months, which was incredibly taxing, it was almost every car. elderly, new immigrants, people with disabilities, people with drug issues, and very low socioeconomic class people, needing directions to this giant charity thrift store. They provided free lunches for people on Thursdays. So it was very, 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 and many trucks. I can't express, this was the toughest site I've ever worked on in terms of how much of myself I had to give, right? And same with Anthony, my amazing offsider and friend, who's been my permanent offsider for over a year. And so the crew would be like, don't let any cars through. You keep letting cars through, and be like, well, that car, for whatever reason, because it was businesses and stuff. And so then, and so like, I would be like, this is a, we're not letting cars through. It's a rule. We're going to explain nicely why the car can't come through, and turn them around and send them back. And then, so that in 1 hour, someone from the crew would say, don't let any cars through. It's a closure. It's a road close. Tell them to fuck off. Tell them to go around, which I would never tell anyone to fuck off. And then the next minute, someone from the crew would be down on the road closure, and a car would pull up, and they would say, let them through. And I'd be like, well, which is it? Like, I'm the traffic. I'm traffic. I'm Hollyberry. Yes, I cut it myself. Thank you. I'm traffic controller. The rule's the rule. Which is it? Are we letting cars through and trucks through? Obviously, if it's a giant, big rig semi-trailer, they have to come through. They can't turn around in this narrow street. And if it's a car that's just trying to, like, it was so frustrating to have my call. It's my rule. It's a hard closure. We're explaining to every car why they can't come through. We're explaining how they can get around to the other side of things. And then to have that undermined by someone, you do your job and I'll do mine. Thanks for coming to my rant. Lol. What, my mouse? Hollyberry. Yes, I cut my hair. My fringe was already there. I've just been slicking it back, but I cut all of the shit off. I'm almost halfway to no more black box dye. Bring that shit on. But like we spent like, it was people trying, it was just going around the block, but having to literally, hi, are you going to Helping Hands? Yes. What you need to do is go to the next left, take the street all the way along. It's quite a long street. It'll feel like you haven't gone far enough, or if you've gone too far, but keep going. First left there, McNamara, left again onto Macintosh, and come in the other way. The car park's open. To people who are 80, people who didn't have English, people who were stressed because they were going to an appointment about maybe getting housing or charitable goods or some free food. Like, I'm burnt out. Let's keep going. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
My mind, I'm like, if you tell me this one thing's wrong and you correct me on it, then why are you not correcting these other people on it? That just doesn't make sense. The inconsistency was exhausting to me because I never knew what I could do, what I couldn't do, what was right, what was wrong. I was just perpetually wrong. And I was left in a position where I had to keep guessing what I had to do and feeling like even though I spent so much energy trying to do the right thing, it was going to be wrong anyways, was just exhausting to me. On top of the fact that I had to try so hard to mask in those interactions with this specific teacher and with the other teachers at this school. It was just like a nightmare. I felt like every time I went home, I was completely depleted all the time. And my energy levels were never replenished ever at this job. And when I finally quit this job, I literally, you guys, I am not exaggerating. I had a burnout that lasted 3 months. For 3 months, I could not get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't look for another job. I was completely burnt out. And all I could do was get up, eat, go back to bed, take a shower, go to the bathroom, and that's it.
What is autistic burnout and why does it need research? The phrase autistic burnout is used a lot in the autistic community and has been used by us for many, many years. And it's applied to this feeling of utter exhaustion and loss of ability that may share some similarities with professional burnout, only it's applied to every area of daily life instead of just to your job. Autistic adults report times in their lives, including during childhood, adolescence, particularly around transition points, where they experience exhaustion so great that they can no longer cope as before and lose skills or functions they previously had, act or feel more autistic, lose jobs, can't maintain school, can't maintain relationships, mental and physical health, sometimes develop chronic health conditions, permanent disability.
And after 3 months were over and I felt like my energies were finally replenished, I started to get my life back together and get back to specific routines like going to the gym, looking for a new job, blah, blah, blah. But that was like my most exhausting job that I've ever worked. And it was a terrible experience. I literally had nightmares about this job and this specific person I worked with for months because that's how traumatizing that experience was to me. And I think I'll make another video about this specific topic of like how trauma plays into autism and how a person with autism has more of a chance to experience something as a traumatic experience compared to a holistic person or a neurotypical person. But yeah, to simply put it, I didn't like to feel like no matter what I did, it was wrong. No matter what I did, it was going to affect me negatively and be perceived as a negative thing. So this is something I kind of talked about with my psychologist and also some questions I've seen from other autistic individuals as to what jobs should an autistic person work, because it's so hard to find a job that is sustainable for us because of all the things that we may struggle with within this neurotypical world. I just want to say all of this starts with you and getting to know yourself. What does your autism look like to you specifically? What are your autistic traits? What are things that you struggle with in the neurotypical world? What are your sensory issues? And therefore, what are the accommodations that you need to maintain a sense of wellness in your life? What are the jobs that can more easily make those accommodations for you so that you can work those jobs and be able to sustain a livable life for yourself and to be able to not only like make life livable for you subjectively, like your emotional well-being, physical well-being, but also like objectively. So you're making enough money to be able to be relatively independent, if not completely independent, which is ultimately the goal. Like I said in the beginning of the video,
This is
those
our channel,
lists
the thought
and what
spot.
it looks like to
You
you is going to be very different because autism is a spectrum, right? So I could try to give you as much advice as I can, but ultimately you're going to have to do that inner work on your own as to figuring out what your spectrum looks like to you. And once you start to discover who you are genuinely outside of your masks, outside of your camouflaging, who you are at your core, you can begin to get a clear idea of what it looks like to you to have a life that is worth living and more comfortable living. Comfortability is like a big part of this, right? Comfortability is a big part of autism in general because being an autistic person in this world could be so uncomfortable. Like, trust me, I understand you guys. I have chronic anxiety, not because my life is bad by any means, but just because I've learned my whole life to just be anxious.
We love you, Juju.
But
we love everybody.
will pass along this message that my psychologist gave me, and he said, as a person with autism, you have to find what you're good at, what you find enjoyment in, and try to follow that path as much as you can. And along the way, begin to narrow down those details of all the needs that you have and to love yourself enough to be able to advocate for those needs and get those needs met. So for me personally,
my delightful mother, wait, let's play this. Let's play Baby Shorty in response to Piers' beautifully inspiring life teachings, I presume from a parental figure. Here we go. What, like my mother used to say to me, she's a delightful creature. Lisa, life isn't about what you want to do. Life is about what you have to do. So uplifting. Yeah, man. Yay.
I
Positive
know that
vibes
I
only,
like
right?
to work with people, but there were other things that were not so ideal. For example, with that teacher job, there was all those other things that made it impossible. With my customer service jobs, I loved certain aspects of it, but other aspects were not ideal either and was exhausting to deal with. And ultimately, none of these jobs were sustainable, which isn't good when you're an adult, and sustainability is a big part of adulthood. So for me personally, when I finally found my way into building my own business as a self-empowerment coach, I very quickly realized that this is exactly what I needed in my life to build a system.
Pause. Lucky you, Pierce. It was her grandmother that said that. My mother didn't really teach me anything. And actually, I guarantee you now, as she did then, if you asked her to best describe Lisa, it will be that Lisa's a non-coper, her exact words. So thanks. So uplifting. I think I've coped all right.
Sustainable career
Despite
for myself,
that,
because I'm literally doing everything I loved from my previous jobs, but without those very intense experiences that would deplete my energy reserves. Ultimately, all of this to say is there's no way to know unless you get to know yourself, one, but also go out there and give things a try. And I know that could be very discouraging a lot of the times, because with trial and error, when you come across an error, it could feel very discouraging. You could feel hopeless. You could feel broken. You could feel like nothing ever works out. You could feel like there's something wrong with you. But just take it all as a learning experience. Every time you go into a new job and you realize what you like and what you don't like, take it into account and make a mental list of it, so that when you look into new jobs in the future, you can begin to prioritize what is most important to you and what you need to set boundaries for as to what you're not willing to put up with. And just know that there's more and more opportunities out there for you when it comes to jobs. And so as a person with autism, never feel like you have to settle for a job, and never feel like you are not worth those accommodations. Do what you need to do to be able to get those accommodations as well. But yes, you guys, thank you for tuning in on today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you've gotten this far, I know some of my videos are a little bit longer. I'm so thankful for any of you who have commented on my videos so far. Just know that I read your comments and I really, really take it to heart, and it really helps encourage me to keep making these videos. You already know all of things. Give this video a like. It helps me know what videos you guys really vibe with, so that I could make more video content like that in the future. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. But yeah, I'm curious to know, what type of jobs have you guys worked that you really loved, and what type of jobs did you really, really hate? Let's start a conversation down below. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on next week's video. Bye.
thanks, Irene. We loved her. I think, interestingly, obviously she's a quarter of a century younger than me, or ish. I guess, and also blessed to have been diagnosed relatively early in life, a young adult versus an old lady, not even diagnosed, self-identifying. Also, I don't know, from a reality point of view, from a financial point of view, trial and error can be extremely risky, particularly as a single person who is a single household, single income household, just me. Pia says, by the way, I just became a Grammy a couple of weeks ago. God, time flies. Congratulations. Oh, I just hope I have the presence of mind to help my grandbaby. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. Congratulations. I remember when we found out you were going to be a Grammy. That's so exciting. Now, which one? Send me this one. Chameleon. You say chameleon, right? I say chameleon. I'm autistic. How dare you? How do you say it? Okay, fine. How do I say Aldi? What was the other one that I said to you? All lolled? Sadistic. What else? Sham wow. When she says the macrame. How am I supposed to say macrame? Oh my God, how dare you? This is an onslaught of assault. Well, how am I supposed to say it? What do you want me to? I don't know how to say it. I didn't talk to people. I read books. The number of times I say hyperbole instead of hyperbole is not even funny. I thought determined was determined for about 15 years of my life. What else? It's okay, let's pile on. Pile on, Shorty. Pile on, Shorty. I deserve it. I've been piling on a few of you. Oh, you are so picked on by me. Apologies. Chameleon. I don't want to say chameleon. To me, it's chameleon. You all suck. I love you all so much. And Juju likes the cheese one. It is pretty good. They're all good. Oh, no, this one's one of my favorites. Wait. What did she say to me the other day? She goes, did you know that today is World Turtle Day? She said, special shout out to an Australian turtle, something, can't remember, that has these a few different things and says, and breathes out of its genitals. What a rebel. And I was like, nice. Thanks, Alexa. But this one for Juju. I don't know, is this a full screen? I'm not sure. I'm sorry, what, Stephanie? Stephanie? I'm sorry, what? I don't even like cheese? Do I even know you, Stephanie? Just never mentioned? It's all the marriage is based on lies and misconceptions. I can't breathe. No, Steph says, no, Lisa, I told you this in all caps. She's like, babe, I swear, I did tell you. Okay, listen, it's not a deal breaker. We can work through this.
You just would like to know.
I mean, is it too much to ask? Do I even really know the real you? Oh.
I'm talking like analyze a potential suspect.
I'm gonna need a minute.
At all.
We're gonna work through it. I swear, Steph, I'm so sorry. I've ruined your safe place. I don't know, man. Betrayal is the worst. What about pizza? Sorry, this is important. What do you have? Do you have cheese on pizza? What about on burgers? What are we doing here? Where is the line drawn? I'm not sure. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I can breathe. It's fine. That's okay. You know what? I'll do anything for you, Steph, even if it's not like that. Actually, that's perfect. It means I don't have to share my cheese. Love it. Carry on as you were. I sit there every time. I sit there cracking up. That's the funniest thing ever. Oh my god, a moment in time. And if you hear that bit, I pressed play again on. It was Georgia Kappelman. It was testimony. We're in the middle of trial. I'm sorry. This is important. Cheese is love, and not having to share one's cheese is going to be even a stronger true love forever. I guess that leads into very, very definitively the fact that Stephanie and I are getting each other's names tattooed on each other. Wait, where's that one? This one. We're getting tattoos with each other's names, and I'm not even joking. I'm like, Steph sent me, I'm telling her as you were. Steph sent me these pictures. She goes, jokes, lol. And it was a heart with some roses and flowers and an arrow, and then Lisa in the middle. And she goes, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I wouldn't, but wouldn't this be funny? I'm like, send me one with Stephanie. I'm getting it. And so she did. And so I am. I mean, it's way more, my love for you and your love for me, Stephanie, is way more genuine than the fucking pirate flag tattoo I have. Let's be all honest about it. Oh, so good. Oh. What about this one then? While we're at it, why don't we do all the baby shorties? Hang on.
I mean, I'm sorry, but why is gorilla, but then tortilla is tortilla? Make it make sense. Double L, gorilla, tortilla. And you want me to say tortilla? I didn't get it.
That was me sending a voice note in Discord. I'm like, I understand. I say it every time. I understand it's a different origination of languages. Gorilla is English. Tortilla is Spanish. But I'd read 1,000 books by the time I was 10. Brain sees them as the same. I still can't get my, and Paella don't even start me. That's how we started in the first place. You all were trash talking me because of how I say things, which really shouldn't be a surprise whatsoever. Ironically, I'm the first one to correct someone on how something's pronounced. I'm like, it's actually blah, 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 blah. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, imagine not having to say, not knowing how to say X, Y, and Z. And then I'm like, just then also me. What a hypocrite. Like, what a hypocrite. Hey, chat, thank you so much. What a fun, never true. No, I know you, I love it. I'm ripe for the picking. Some things you all get on my bust my balls, bust my chops about things that are an America versus Australia thing. Very few. Most are just a Lisa thing. Even Poppy's sighing. She's like, poor Miss Shorty. Poor Miss Shorty. Oh, wait, I'm Lisa. Fuck. They're like, Miss Shorty Schmorty, just give us some pig's ears, for goodness sake. Hey, now, thanks for being here on a Wednesday night. I'm so happy we got to do this. It's Thursday here. I've got some more big stuff to do. It's going to be quite warm here today, apparently. So I'm going to get out, I think, in the garden and do some weeding because it's no end of shame for me that I have where the public can, the backyard don't even talk to me about it. I'll get there tomorrow, hopefully. The front part, there's just some very easily pulled weeds, and I'm going to do it because that will make me feel better about myself and it will look nice and the neighbors will be happy. Friday night, we are starting a new trial. I think I've mentioned it before. Pile on Shorty. Juju, send me an email. One of the mods will drop it in there, or there's even a banner. Let me put the banner on there. Where is it? Somewhere? Of course it is. Here it is. Send me an email, and I'll send you a link. We just don't publicly advertise it because, long story. Now. We're starting the trial, the eye drops murder trial, on Friday night. It's 2 years ago, I think, a Wisconsin one. And it's Hydrant Head, Anthony Cotton, the defense attorney, one of the defense attorneys in the Maxwell Anderson trial. It's his mother, Donna Kukla. I've watched this trial before, but it's been a couple of years. And Judge Jennifer Doro is the judge. I think what we're going to do, because mine and Ms. What the Fuck's bandwidth both is very limited at the moment. Here distracting me with mushrooms. Like death caps, they're nearby. Erin Patterson lives relatively near to me. I live in heavy line suburbia. I'm sure there are. I don't know much about mushrooms, but yes, and there's also magic mushrooms at certain times of the year. I used to see a guy that would go picking magic mushrooms. Never got a chance to partake. Hit me up. Anyway, trials. We're not going to do. Ms. What the Fuck and I are probably neither of us have the bandwidth or the capacity to do the week that was just yet, where we will come back to it. For now, while we're both just managing to survive mentally and emotionally and stuff, we're going to go with trials because that's a very low level of preparation. I could just get my playlist and pop it on and we can watch it together, and it's a great trial. A Judge Jennifer Doro is great. We've got a lot to loll about with Donna Kukla and Jesse Krzyzewski. So that fungi, yes. I'd like to try DMT, frankly. Factually, yes. We're not going to be watching it through the trial channel, I don't think. Oh, I've got Siblis. I got Sleep, delightful. Sibyllus, that's sleep in Greek. But yes, we do love our friends at the Trial Channel. If you want to watch many trials, actually, if you're looking for a trial to watch, not with me, if you want to escape from something, I strongly recommend the Monica Simontelli trial on the Trial Channel. It went for 2 months. So good, so good, so good. Closing arguments from the state went for 2.5 days. So good. Ms. What the fuck can attest. Can we have favorite trials? Is that okay? One of my favorite trials ever. Why is it called Sleep? I don't know, Britt Ketchel. But let's not even get into eyelash mites, because apparently the crusty shit you wake up with in the morning is from eyelash mites. Eye boogers. Yes. I think sleep is maybe a less gross way to say it, but if you want to say eye boogers, well, 2.5 days. Yeah, man. It was a 2.5 month, like a 2.5 month trial. It's very good. It's just a fucking slam dunk. Yeah, Britt Ketchel, we covered that in one of the week that was. Now every time I have any crusties in the morning, I'm like, oh, eyelash mites, gross. Why? So thanks for being here. I love you all very much. Thanks for the laugh. I'm glad everybody got some good stuff from this, myself included, not least of all the laughs at the end. Monica Sementelli, Ms. What the fuck will type it? S-E-M, it's like Semen Tilly. Thank you. Semen Tilly. Juju, you may recall it's from it's 6-7, how many years ago? 6 or 7 years ago? That's crime itself. Fabio Sementelli was murdered in his home in Los Angeles. He was the hairdresser Fabio, right? And it turns out that yes, good. Turns out that his wife and her degenerate lover had him. Well, the degenerate lover recruited. Oh, it's a dead to rights case. She's a fucking piece of shit. She's a piece of shit, a vile woman, and it's a very good trial. It's fantastic, if that's okay to say about if that's okay to say about a murder trial. Anyway, justice for Fabio finally. Suck it, Monica Sementelli. And the Trial Channel has it all in a playlist in chronological order per witness. And if you look at the comments, you'll see me there on every single video, like commenting, engaging with it. Me and Ms. What the fuck were together as well. Epic. Two female prosecutors, Beth Silverman and can't remember. Camp Shorty is did I say cunt? Yes. Hard C. Hard T. Camp Shorty is awesome because you know why? Because of you all. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you Friday night. We're back to trial watching, and be kind to each other. Be kind regardless of political affiliations, intrinsic unconscious biases, how angry and outraged you might be feeling, how scared you might be feeling. Let's all just be kind to each other. Unity over division. One love, one humankind, one humanity. We are one. That's all I'm going to say. I love you all very much. Thanks, mods. Thanks, chat. Mwah.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast, just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone a bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. His chat is bae, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, but faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing. Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. I love you all very, very